Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good morning, good afternoon, or a warm welcome to wherever you are on this fine Saturday, and welcome to the coverage of round 4 of the VSCA SportsCar Championship, streaming live on both the Apex Racing TV channel on VSCA's own channel. Today, Mid-Ohio plays host to round 4 of the SportsCar Championship, but it's only the second round in the shorter VSCA Sprint Cup. Breaking ground in 1961, the layout here at Mid-Ohio is largely unchanged, making it equally as challenging as it is rewarding. This 2.25 mile circuit spans 13 corners with a mix of both medium high-speed corners and trickier slow-speed corners, which will test both our racers' right foot and patience in equal measures. Today sees us race an IMSA-inspired format with both the car classes and their rules trying to emulate its real-life counterpart. However, we will only be seeing the LMP2 and GT3 classes competing, as unfortunately iRacing hasn't graced us yet with the LMP3, but I'm sure we will see an even more amount of action out on the track. My name is Sebastian Boscher-Williams. Joining us in the commentary box is the ever wonderful Samuli Kumo, but right now I am joined by the one and only Tim Cox. Good evening, Tim. Great to have you alongside me for this amazing race coming up. We know that Mid-Ohio is a super tricky circuit to drive at the best of times, but you know, we've got multi-class added into that mix to make it even more exciting.
Well, as you say, Seb, multi-class does make it that bit more interesting, and local weather here, it says currently just heading up to 10 past 2 local time in Lexington, Ohio, and we have got 29 degrees Celsius ambient temperature and a whopping 48 degrees Celsius track temperature. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means it's not going to be a massive amount of grip out there, especially in the opening stages with its hot track temperatures. Things are going to be a little bit slippery, and that's going to potentially make things a little bit treacherous, especially come round about lap 4 to 5, possibly lap 6, when we start to see the GT3s, or the GTDs to give them by their true IMSA name. They've got the LMP2s coming around to lap them, and that's where things could get very, very interesting indeed. Of course, one of the shorter circuits on the championship, only 2.25 miles. That's 3.6 kilometers long. And there's still plenty of overtaking opportunities, though. I expect most of those happen into turn 1, turn 2, the keyhole, and then that long back straight, which starts immediately on the exit of turn 2, on the route down to turn 4. Well, we've got turn 3 in the middle. Some class it as a corner, some don't. It's a kink, but due to the way that motorcycles have to take it as corners, that's why it's classed as a corner. Similar situation to what you have at the Red Bull Ring as well, where you've got turn 2, the kink up on the road, up the hill to the tight right-hander that is Remus. Now, we've got qualifying just getting underway. We've got the GTDs out on track as, oh, there we go. Fisher Motorsport Porsche there, having a bit of a rotation. Likewise, the Lamborghinis there. That is the number 35, also having the same issue. And it's a really, really challenging part of the circuit. That it's like a roller coaster. A lot of blind entries and blind apexes, which makes it just all the more challenging for our drivers. There we go. It was the Fisher Motorsport Lamborghini that was having the issue. So see them heading to the pits. Clearly going to take on some more tyres and look to go again. So GTD, they have 20 minutes of qualifying before we head the LMP2s take to the track, and they'll have just 15 minutes to get their times in. And really, really challenging this with such a big grid here. I mean, we've got 31 GTDs alone. So it gets incredibly hard with this small circuit to try and find yourself in that little window of space, but then equally to time your run right, because you can make quite a bit of time in the slipstream out of turn 2, down that back straight speed, but earlier into turn 4. We're just seeing right now a couple of cars off track as well there, and starting to see people trip up one another. Now, as much as you can utilise that slipstream, it's not a point where you want to be stuck right behind someone during your qualifying, because from this point onwards, there's no chance to get past them. Not something you want to be doing in qualifying. It's going to really, really compromise your times. As we just see the number 20 Ferrari there, that is the LTS Motorsports car. Nunes currently at the helm for them, just trying to find a little window of space, but they've got the 77 just steaming through there. That's silver for Shamrock Racing, Sim Racing. And that may well have compromised their time a little bit, and they'll be looking to go again. As mentioned, a lot of cars, really, really tricky, tripping up over one another a little, desperately trying to find that little window of space to get in so they can get a really good time in. It's going to make qualifying all the more tricky. Campbell currently leading the way, the 120.6. And we've got another American Fogel in second place. Some 3 tenths behind right now. And what can we say? This is where it gets all the more interesting, and especially for the LMP2s as well. That limited amount of time that they're going to have available to them. Plenty of them to squeeze into the circuit. We're in for some really, really interesting and potentially seeing a few drivers qualifying out of position, Seb. So this is where it just adds to the spice and the flavour of 2 hours, 40 minutes worth of racing that we've got ahead of us after qualifying, because they're going to have to try and weave their way through and get moves done early. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves cut adrift from the rest of the pack.
They certainly are. Yeah, you're very right. You know, I mean, it's the beauty of endurance racing. You have got all of these sort of breakaway groups, and you know, it's what we call field spread. You know, it's just naturally sort of evolves as the race goes on that you tend to fall away from the drivers ahead of you. And I think around here, you're really going to want to be in the slipstream. Well, that's if you're a GT3. The LMP2 drivers are going to be really wanting to catch a GT3 or GTD even, by themselves, not in a gaggle, because it's going to make lapping them so difficult as the number 35 car goes off wide at turn 7 as we just start to get into the final minutes of the qualifying session for the GTD. 7 minutes to go before we swap these GTD cars for their LMP2 counterparts. Into the braking zone we go of turn number 4. On board with your pole sitter, Adrian Campbell, in the Kinetic Racing VCSA GT3 car. Just easing it round. Doesn't look like a super fast lap as I can see from my timing screens, but building up, gaining the tyre temperatures is off. Ahead of him goes one of the other cars. That's Ricardo Nunez there, the number 20, and that's certainly not what you want to be doing. 7 minutes to go in this practice, in this qualifying session even. And Tim, it's so tricky, isn't it, at this point when we get to the sort of the last couple of minutes where you're completely pushing the car, and these mistakes just happen so easily.
They do. It's as I mentioned earlier, Seb. It is really, this track really is like a roller coaster ride from turn 4 to the start-finish line, which makes up around about 40% of the track, where there's only one line available, and a lot of blind entries and blind apexes through that section, and I think it could potentially make things a bit interesting, and definitely a few drivers struggling out there during qualifying, people dipping in and out of the pits trying to take on some new rubber and look to go again as they try desperately to improve their time. And right now we've got Porsche on par with Campbell, Mercedes on the front row with Fogel, Middleton in another Porsche, and then the second row is the top of our Ferrari runners. That's a Dietzold in the 4th place. And then we have the top Audi runner. That's all the way down in 11th. That is Earhart, currently at the helm of that machine. And then the top BMW even further down. The BMW's really, really struggling here. That one is Pedro Lancha Gomez, only down in 17th place. We've got 2 Lamborghinis as well. Probably the highest there is 14th. Dylan Platt on board that machine, one of those 2 machines. And we've got the checkered flag out for qualifying in GTD, Seb. So last chance now.
Certainly is, yep. You've got to make sure that you nail those apexes. And if you see, here's the number 6 car getting a decent slipstream off the 396 car ahead of them. As we head into the tricky final left-hander now into the carousel. What can you do? This is where it's make or break for your lap time. We're currently watching our 3rd place driver. Can he gain that extra 10th to go ahead of the Mercedes and make it an all Porsche front row as he crosses the line? Can Neil get ahead? And I don't think he's done it. And that is qualifying over for the GTDs. And we're about to see the LMP2s take to Mid-Ohio. And we'll just watch for the change over in a few seconds. Drivers still lapping around. I think they're just sort of coming back into the pits now as we get into the, I think, the more chaotic stages of qualifying. Of course, the LMP2 is more reliant on downforce. You really can't follow a car as closely as you can in these GT3, so finding that ever crucial space on the track is going to be even harder. So expect to see sort of Formula 1-esque sort of shenanigans going on at the end of the lap as drivers try to back off to gain that crucial couple of seconds gap. As we just watch once again the number 6 car there, beautiful and distinctive livery. That's what we like to see as commentators. Always gives makes our job a lot easier. As they're just coming back into the pits. So Adrian Campbell is your pole sitter for GTD, with Patrick Fogel in 2nd place, with Neil Middleton in 3rd. And you're right, Tim, our first BMW driver is all the way down in 17th place. And the BMWs used to be the cream of the crop when it comes to GTDs. They were, if you sort of look outside of IMSA, when the iRacing had its 24 hours of Nürburgring, the BMW was the car to be in. So to see it really struggle at a track like this is really unusual. So yeah, we'll have to see if maybe the BMW has better race pace and just can't extract that one lap pace, or are we going to see that pace deficit, all throughout the qualifying session, then moving on to the race. So yeah, I mean that's why we love multi-class racing, isn't it, Tim? Because you not only do you get the different classes, but you get the different cars within the same class. It's so many races going on at once.
You've hit the absolute nail on the head. And I think where the BMWs maybe are struggling here today, as you mentioned, the top qualifiers, the 27 Motorsports yellow machine in 17th place with CMS Racing just behind it, and another of the BMWs. You mentioned really good Nürburgring, good results for BMWs, really the car to be in. A lot of that is because the BMW is incredibly good over the curves. Now, what do you have at the Nordschleife? Lots and lots of curves, especially some very aggressive ones. Whereas Mid-Ohio, not so much. And although the BMW is not necessarily the fastest overall, especially over that one lap, it does have certain strengths. Likewise, you have across the whole of GT3 or GTD in this case. Each of the different cars have got their own strengths and weaknesses. The Ferrari, incredibly good in a straight line. The Porsche, a very good all-rounder, good especially in those mid to high-speed corners. The Audi's great at turning, but can be incredibly volatile when it can experience snap oversteer. So this is where it makes it all the more interesting. You're going to see the drivers quicker at different sections of the track versus the other car manufacturers, and it's whether they can capitalize on those strengths versus the weaknesses of a car that they're battling with. That's what's going to be interesting for me to see. But also, likewise, they've also got to deal with those LMP2s coming through the first time, Seb. That's all when it's always the most treacherous and the way you can gain and lose a lot of time in those opening stages. I mentioned that'll probably happen in the window of lap 4 to 6, depending on the pace differential. And when you've got a stream of LMP2s coming through versus a stream of GTDs, I think it could end up quite interesting. We've got not long to go till qualifying for the LMP2s. But worth mentioning, Seb, is the fact that this series runs a safety car full-course yellow style system. Now, what does that mean? Well, due to the software that they've run in the background, it looks at how many off-track incidents people have been having, and it will throw a full-course caution. During that period, we will see the cars park up on a track. So when it is thrown, they will race to the start-finish line, and then they'll head to their formation zones. For the LMP2s, that is on the run in at the entrance into turn 4. For the GTDs, it is halfway between turn 1 and turn 2, and then all the way through to pretty much turn 3. So you'll see the cars potentially park up there if we have one of the four-course yellow situations. Now, in the previous round, we did experience 5 of those, Seb. So, and due to the nature of this track too, I get the feeling we might see just 1 or 2 here today at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, I certainly agree, Tim. I think we're going to see lots and lots of action as we get the LMP2 qualifying officially underway. 15 minutes for them to set their best lap times and to qualify for the race. Now, interestingly, we're on round 4 of this championship, and in the last 3 races, only one team has converted a pole position into an actual race victory, and that came at the Sebring 12 hours. So it goes to show that, in endurance races, and even, as endurance's race is short as a 2-hour, 40-minute race that we've got today, qualifying is not the be-all and end-all of anything. You really don't need to have a quick car over 1 lap. You need to have a quick car over a stint. You've got to get your tyres in the window, and you've got to have that consistency. As this is Dan McFarlane there, the sim racing grid car heading through turn 9, one of my favourite corners on this track. Actually, I don't think that was. I think we're still having a little bit of issues with our graphics there. There's a LMP2 spun at turn 9. And that just goes to show how tricky these cars are to drive. Of course, they do have traction control, no anti-lock braking like we see on the GTD cars, much more power, and of course, much more reliant on downforce. So these cars are a real handful, and you'd say, Tim, some of the quickest cars you'd want to drive around here, the LMP2s, because this track is short and these cars are rapidly quick.
They are, and the trick to driving the LMP2, Seb, is to not get into that traction control that you were talking about. When you do, the car audibly makes a real, like, burbling, growly sound where you can hear the traction control cutting in and the software fighting against the tyres, spinning up to prevent them from doing so. Now, Round 8 track with a lot of straights like such as Le Mans, it's not so much of an issue, but somewhere around here where there's lots of turns, it can be quite easy to trigger it. And that's what really, really will hamper your time, especially across one lap of qualifying where you're trying to set your best possible time. So those drivers that are the smoothest with their throttle application, I think we're going to find that they're going to have more success during this qualifying period.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with you there. And of course, you know, it's all well and good avoiding the traction control over one lap, but to do it, you know, consistently, and then you add in the tyre degradation, and it's going to make it harder to not hit the traction control. It gets so tricky so quick. And, you know, in this league that we're running, we do actually have a set number of tyre sets that you can use per in the race. So for the LMP2, you have 4 tyre sets, so you can change your tyres 4 times. The GT3s are only allowed 3 tyre sets. So, you know, tyre conservation is a little bit of a thought for these drivers. I mean, we've only got a 2-hour, 40-minute race, so I don't expect to be seeing any crazy tyre wear saving strategies or anybody doing 4 hours on a set of tyres or anything sort of extreme like that. But what I do think is you will see drivers at least having that in mind, that they have got these tyre sets, and you know, strategy has got to play a part. So really interesting race coming up as we have our LMP2 runners out on track. This is Element Simfire, Sim Racing Fire even, with Jan Vollemers at the wheel, coming around the final corner. Where can they put their LMP1? They're currently in pole position. Do they improve on that lap time? They do. They go to a 13.12, and that's about 4 seconds separating first place and last place in the LMP2 field. I think some drivers sort of lower the bottom of the grid haven't found their rhythm yet for their lap, and just it's so tricky around here. We keep on saying it, but it's true. It's such a difficult circuit, Mid-Ohio, and this is just qualifying. We've got 2 hours and 40 minutes of racing coming up. Down towards turn 4 we go. Such a tricky braking zone. A little bit of a bump on the entry, and then just a bump on the exit, just for good measure, over another, it's not a bump, it's a valley, I think you'd have to call that, on the exit of turn 5 into turn 6. And this is Torque Freak Racing Ascari, just getting out of the way of the number 7 car, and they are in 7th place. Number 43 is being piloted by Trevor Vorosky at the moment. They were very quick in practice, so I think they once again haven't really shown their true potential out on the track at the moment. But we have around 10 minutes left to go, and in they come to the pits. And this is another rule, Tim, of this league, is, you know, gone are the days when, you know, you could just pull up to the side of the track and escape back to the pits and sort of teleport back. If you do that, you are no longer allowed to compete in qualifying. So if you want to come back to get new tyres and go out again, you have to drive back to the pits, take the fuel just as you would in a race pit stop, and then go out again. And that means that these drivers are going to have to carry at least a lap extra fuel just to get back around again. So, I mean, it's quite, not a detriment, but I mean, the drivers really have to think about this if they want to do more than one run.
Yes, especially maybe if they've just got held up in a little bit of traffic, depending on that qualifying lap, as you said, Seb, with that limited amount of fuel. Really got to think about things, especially with the ability, as you rightly said, of them not being able to just, you know, go for full guns, put in another lap, and then pull over and just escape back to the pits that way. It's just seeing the CMS Racing.com Pro LMP2, the Brit Barker, currently taking on qualifying for them and setting that initial pace. And one thing that's really come out for me, Seb, is this battle between Barker and Volmers. I think this is going to be a really, really intriguing one for the lead, and it's going to to and fro across the whole of the 2 hours 40 of racing that we've got here today in Lexington.
I completely agree, and I think, you can even add, I mean, they're so close at the top of the timing stands. Just goes to show how quick these drivers are, and the caliber of the drivers, of course. VSCA have implemented sort of a very strict sort of iRating guide that you need to be in. Of course, it's a minimum of 2K and a maximum of 4K, so the drivers are quite close together. So it really really conduces for good racing, as we see Volomers again starting another lap, trying to nick that P1 back of Barker. And actually, interestingly, they're down to 4th place, so lots of action heading at the top of the timing stands as we head into turn 2 on the brakes. So easy to apex early, but you just need to hold the turn in just a little bit longer than you think, just to open the corner and allow you to get on the power as smoothly and efficiently as possible down through the unfortunately named turn 3, although in my eyes it's definitely not a corner, to the braking zone of turn 4 now. Very tricky. Over the hill into turn 5, and you're going to drop, you're going to feel the car just go from underneath you there. Car bottoming out into turn 6 now, towards the right hand, turning in a little bit late. A little bit of oversteer on the exit for Jan there. Head through turn 7 into turn 8 now. Be careful not to run onto the grass on the exit of turn 8. Again, sliding all the way through turn 9. Rear tyres absolutely screaming for their lives into the left-hander of turn 10. We just cut away, and this is Martin Brandborg, the Lone Wolf Motorsports car, number 747. They're currently in 5th place, and they have about 6 minutes left to improve. So Jan just went up 1 position, but couldn't really improve that much. And yeah, the fastest lap time so far is 1 minute 12.72, Tim, and that times are just dropping. I mean, we started in the mid-13s, and we're already sort of knocking on the door of a mid-12.
Not far off it indeed, Seb. To our current pole position, CMS Racing. They're going to head out and have another go again. So about Black Dove making good improvements on their previous couple of laps, and to get themselves up onto that front row. As there is our current pole sitter on their outlap. What can Barker do? That's the interesting point. I mean, only 0.04 of a second separating himself in 2nd place. Definitely a bit too close for comfort as the Lone Wolf Motorsports 747. Wow. Currently flying like a Boeing 747 right now to move up into 4th. Great improvement from them, and only 0.04 of a second behind Race for Cat Motorsport, currently in 3rd.
Certainly are. Just, again, another very distinct livery from our pole sitters so far, as Jan Volomers heads up to 3rd place, the number 7 car, within 1/10 of a second of the overall best time. So that will give them encouragement at Element Sim Racing Fire, and they'll be thinking that it might just be possible to get that top step. But of course, as we've been saying, qualifying isn't everything around here, and this is going to be an incident-packed race. We might even see a few of these full-course yellows that this league is implemented change the dynamic of the race. So, while it's a good morale boost to be on pole, it's certainly not the be-all and end-all of your race if you don't manage to get it. And just being within a few tenths really can just give you confidence, and and especially the drivers, of course. They're all going to have teammates sort of listening in and watching their laps, and you can almost sort of like analyze with your teammate and go, well, actually I sort of lost, I think I lost about 1/10 and a half, 2 tenths into this corner, let's say. And you go, well, actually if I'd have done that, and you sort of do the maths and you're like, well, I could actually have been on pole, and you can sort of get the morale boost that way. So lots of, there's Stephen Maxwell, number 2nd place man, off the track at turn 6. Gets back on the track with no incidents, but that's a lap time certainly ruined, if not only for the off-track, for all the time that you would have lost out there. Thankfully, though, in iRacing, no dirt on the car. I mean, we have dirt on the tyres, but you don't have to sort of come into the pits and have some mechanics sort of scrape out sort of chunks of grass from the front splitter. So he'll be able to go for another lap. About 2.5 minutes to go in this session, and he is not going to attempt to start a flying lap on this time. Is he going to, in fact, escape to the pits? Yes, he does. So that means that Stephen Maxwell will not be able to compete anymore in this qualifying session. So his qualifying session is done, and the best place he can start is 2nd place. This is Tonino out on the track, the 112 car, the Rusty Spatula's car, heading down towards turn 3. I don't like that, Tim. I'm gonna make a claim now. I'm really annoyed that that's classified as turn 3. It always really annoys me when that happens, and it's going to be a long race.
So it is, as I mentioned earlier, Seb, it's all down to motorbikes. So you have exactly the same at the Red Bull Ring as I mentioned previously. That kink on the run up to turn 3 official. Remus, the tight right-hander, and because they have to take it as a corner, that's why these little kinks in the road, as it were, are classified as corners where, for especially cars, especially ones with plenty of downforce, like we're seeing the LMP2s, obviously not quite as much with the GTDs, but still a bit of aero on them. It's pretty much a flat-out kink in the road for them, and not really a corner, so be a bit of an interesting one. There's a few others in World Motorsport like that as well. You've got, I'm just trying to think now. Testament stuff, of course, there's the turn just before the start-finish line, the pit entrance at Interlagos. That's another one. There's plenty of them about in World Motorsport.
And I hate them all, Tim. I hate them all. Now, you make a very good point about the motorbikes. But yeah, in these four-wheeled machines, they are no more of an inconvenience. I guess there might be, if we ever do get wet weather racing and iRacing, maybe we start to, to think of these as corners, as you have to sort of be really careful. But as of yet, no weather as we head back towards. This is Carlos Alvarez Benidi out on the track. World of Sim Racing team, the number 51 on their, what would be probably their final lap of qualifying. I think they'll just cross over to start one more lap, but it's whether the session will allow them to do an extra lap, or is it just going to, everybody's going to disappear and then we head straight into the race session. So what can Benidi do as he crosses the line? Does he improve on his 8th place? Doesn't look like it to me, so we will see. We have 1 minute 46 left in the session, Tim. They just cut across you there. So any drivers who have just managed to start their lap will be able to complete it, but I don't think we've got too many out on track at the moment.
No, there's not many. One of them is our current pole sitter, Barker for CMS Racing. He is still out on track, likewise trading paints too, so the drivers do have a little bit extra time to complete their laps. The Albrecht Motorsports come across the line. Now, they did improve on their previous lap, but no such luck at this time. German Gabler going 2 tenths slower on that final attempt, and just having a little look, and this team we're seeing right now, Nightblind Racing, Canadian Roy currently at the helm for them. This is going to be that, oh no, they've headed in, so no improvements. They've bailed on their lap, and I'm just having a bit of a look through, Seb. I think this is going to be pretty much done and dusted as, oh wow, Barker goes 0.04 of a second slower than his previous best, but it's all immaterial.
It is, ironically. That would have put him on pole as well from second place man Maxwell. So yeah, 2 laps that were good enough for the ultimate pole position. But you are looking at your pole sitter, and this is 12th place man Fisher Motorsport USA, and they have not been able to improve, just coasting round now. I'm going to take the flag. Actually, no, they're not. Pit entry line, the blend line looks very similar to the racing line. All that's going to catch us out in the race is Agi Motorsports also heads for the pit lane. And that, I do believe, is your grid set for today's race. And what a good qualifying that was. We saw lots of different pace and, mistakes being made, but fairly clean. Nobody really ended up in the barriers. And I think, Tim, we're just about to bring up the grid. And why don't you take us through our grid for today's race?
Most certainly. So, on the front row, we have CMSRacing.com Pro with Black Dove of Racing. Second row of the grid is Element Sim Racing Fire. They've got Race for Cat Motorsport alongside them. Next lane for Lone Wolf Motorsport with Trading Paints on the 3rd row. Rusty Spatulas have World of Sim Racing with them on the 4th row. Then it's SimGrid Racing Moist with Nightblind Racing on the 5th row of the grid. Then we've got Friday Sports Group with Fisher Motorsport USA on the 6th row. And down through the field is Race for Cat Motorsport with Talk Freaks Racing. And then the last 2 rows with LMP2 at Albrecht Motorsport, we saw them improving in the latter stages. Again, Motorsports, Hotam Hero Racing, and then your LMP2 grid being rounded out by Z Challenger Catholic Racing. And then into the GTDs. Well, it was a good lap by Campbell in the end to get the Kinetic Racing VSCA Porsche on pole. They've got DRG Racing Silver on the front row with them. Then it's Talk Freaks Racing Magazine and FBP Racing on the second row in GTD, with the third row being Fisher Motorsport Porsche and Motor Autotech on the third row of the grid. There's Maguire's team and Resolve Racing, DSRT RJB Solutions and Hack Racing share the same row. There's Westwood Racing, Esports with Driver Trainer Motorsports. Five-Star Motorsports, they've got TR powered by Geeks Energy with them. Dylan Platt, I know. Very good driver. And also compensate that team in another series of TCRs. Very different to what we're seeing here today. And our esports, they've got LTS Motorsport VSCA with them. And then behind them is 27 Motorsports in the lead BMW with CMS Racing Endurance. It's Hyper Racing, Shamrock Racing, Flex Motorsport and Fisher Motorsport, Piston Broke Motor Racing, Real Pixel Motorsport, Money House Graphics, V Apex Racing, DSRT CMX Pro, Faster Esports, RS Esport, Disco Motorsport, and then round out your grid it's RER, no walls here, well there certainly aren't around Mid-Ohio, and Z Challenger, round out your grid.
I certainly do, as you see the lights on your screen, but the race will not get underway. We are waiting until the exit of turn 2. So we are still on the formation lap, heading around turn 1. Everybody stacking up 2 by 2. You see the gap that the GT3s have made to the LMP2 grid. And that's all for safety, all to make sure that nobody gets involved in any form of start line crash. We all see jostling for position, but everybody should remain where they qualified. They are 2 by 2 by 2, and you just see how expensive of a car park we have at the moment, and that's just the LMP2 field. As we head round turn 2, it's the number 79 car on pole. He is who you need to be watching to see when he decides to get this race underway. The 438 car in second. We'll be looking for that inside line into turn number 4 on the first race, or the first corner of the actual race today, as we see the CMS Racing.com car just ready to get this race underway, and it's at the behest of him. He can go whenever he feels like it. And where does he go? He decides to go now. The race is green and underway. A great start from your pole sitters. We all file down into turn 4. The number 7 car thinks about going around the outside, is closely shut the door by the number 438 car there. Everybody's made it through very cleanly. No incidents in the LMP2 field as we head through turns 5, 6, 7 and towards turn 8. This is the GT3 field just about getting underway. Watch for the Porsche. He is your pole sitter, still hasn't gone green. And when does he decide to go? He decides to go now, gets a jump on the Mercedes. There's almost an accident between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. The second and fourth place cars as we file down towards turn 4. The Ferrari on the inside of the Porsche. That's the number 6 Porsche being forced out a little bit wide there, as the Ferrari is through into third place. As we head towards turn 5 now, and they're still side by side, the Porsche and the Ferrari. The Porsche tries to hang it on the outside, thinks better of it. No, they're still side by side on the exit of turn 6. Now the Ferrari gets ahead of them as we stamp on the brakes towards turn 9. And that's a clean start from both of our classes as we see our pole sitter there, the Porsche there, as we watch the Neil Middleton in the Talk Freaks Racing Maggots car. And they've lost a position down to 4th at the start, but it's still been a good start. But look at the gap our top 2 have in GT3 as we head back towards the LMP2 field. Down the inside goes the number 7 car, and that is Maxwell trying to get past the Volumers car. And there's a 1.5 second gap between first and second in the LMP2 field, and that's just extending all the time as the number 7 and 438 car battle it out for second and third. And there is your race leader in the distance, and this is Element Sim Racing Fire just lapping away. Gap is down to 1.4 seconds, so Barker's made some form of mistake on the middle part of this lap. But as we come across the line to start lap number 3, Everything's starting to settle down. What I'm noticing, Tim, is Fogel and Campbell in the GT3 oh so close together.
They are. It's they've really opened up a gap. Likewise, you're seeing right now an LMP2 as well, with Barker getting an absolutely blistering start for the CMS Racing Pro LMP2, but these two, Kinetic Racing Porsche and the DRG Mercedes, all over the back of each other and really starting to pull away from the Ferrari. Good to see 3 different manufacturers in the podium positions for now, but let's not forget, we've still got over 2.5 hours of racing to go, and things are going to evolve. They're going to change, and this is by all means not done and dusted. And I think for these two, I mentioned it earlier, Sam, and I'll reinforce it again because it is such a crucial part, is it's all, you know, safe racing at the moment. You know, the Mercedes can remain, DRG can remain right onto the back end of that Kinetic Racing Porsche. However, it is when the LMP2s come through for the first time in one big long train that they could start to see these broken up, specifically between the top 2, or equally, it could allow, if Fogel in the DRG Mercedes is clever about it, he'll follow through one of the LMP2s who are coming through the field and actually get the jump on the Kinetic Racing Porsche.
It can be done, and the best drivers will look for those opportunities. In fact, I was overtaken for the lead in a race not that long ago by another car just following the faster cars through, and just, you know, away they went, and I could do nothing about it. So yeah, it's such a skill to drive in traffic. You know, you might think it's a skill to drive, you know, a faster car through traffic, but it's equally as hard and as skillful to drive a slower car when there's a faster car around you. As we see the number 96 car going off the track there, that's certainly not what you wanted to do. I think there was a little bit of contact between another one of the cars. That's Elbrecht Motorsport down to 17th place now, and that's the number 54 car just getting by, and the number 59 car, Z Challenger, right behind them, wanting to pick up another position. So not quite sure what's happened there, but that's not the start they would have wanted, as now we see the LMP2s catching to the back of the pack of the GT3s, and we are in for a crazy few laps. There's a spinner, there's one of the Lamborghinis spun at turn 1 across the pit entry. Race leader does well to get through. That's the number 94 car of Faster Esports. Once again, not what they wanted to do, and crucially for them, they're going to rejoin in the midst of the LMP2 battle. They've got to be oh so careful to rejoin safely, as we see the number 79 car now get through the first lot of the GT3s right on board. This great camera angle down towards the breaker zone of turn 4, made it past the Porsche, hits the apex very nicely, and now you're watching up ahead. You can see the cars battling ahead of you, and you are thinking as a driver, I'm going to be there in a few seconds, and I don't like the look of that.
Barker needs to be the perennial hot knife through butter right now if he wants to maintain this gap. But don't forget as well, Seb, that Volmers, currently in 2nd place, is going to experience exactly the same issue as Barker is right now. But Volmers is in full attack mode and dealing with the traffic far, far better than Barker.
The gap has come down to almost 0.2 of a second. They are car lengths that separated them at the moment. Barker's got the unlucky job of having to wake up all of the GT3s ahead of him, as Volmers gets a great one off the final corner. They're side by side as they head into turn 1. Volmers is going to have to back out because there's a Mercedes ill-advised, wrongly placed in the entrance of turn 1, sorry, and Volmers is going to have to live for another day. Dives down the inside of the number 77 car, as we see the 438 car do the same on the Mercedes. Hits the apex very nicely, but has a Porsche on exit, so he's going to hamper his speed. He's just a little bit too far away to be involved in that battle for first. But Barker, hang on. I mean, he was lucky with the Mercedes there, wasn't he, Tim? The placement of the Mercedes is we're into the slow section again, and the drivers have been warned that you need to be really sure if you're going to overtake a car here, you know, especially of a different class. You just need to make sure that the move is 100% on, because the stewards do not want to see incidents around this area, do they?
They most certainly don't. It's very highly stipulated within the rules. It's all Barker getting a little bit loose there. That you've got to make sure your car is at least alongside when it comes to pass before the corner entry, as Oh, that's the Race for Cap Motorsport P2 off the track. Somewhere
GT3.
turn 6, I think. Is that Seb?
I think that was turn 9. I think, yes.
Apologies.
I think we've had our first LMP2 GTD contact there. One of the Ferraris came off the worst as they were oh so close on the exit of the final corner. They're 3 wide into turn 1 and they are sorting themselves out. The BMW is going to get squeezed oh so wide on the exit, just about keeps it within the track limits. He's going to get past once again. They're 3 wide as we head into turn 2. Contact between the 112 and the 43 LMP2 as they all squabble for positions. Drown goes to number 51. That's Benidi. He is off the track and in the gravel trap. And that's not what he would have wanted to do. Has he been helped round by any contact? Or did he just overcook it under brakes as he rejoins the track? And they've got a lot of work to do. Still 2.5 hours to go in this race, but certainly a setback that you don't want. The number 19 opens the door there. Saw the...
Spinner, there was someone off in the background. I think it was the number 14, I think, potentially. I didn't quite catch who exactly it was, but I think it was, the Fisher Motorsport machine. It's getting very, very loose and leery on the exit of turn 5 out onto the grass of the rim. Managed to hold it, but has lost some time because of it.
Certainly has, and now has to get past the number 77 again as we head up the hill down towards turn 11. And the drivers, sorry, have been told, do not overtake into turn 11. They do not want to see any accidents there. Through the carousel they go onto the back straight, and now that releases the number 14 LMP2 to get past that Porsche that's caused them oh so many difficulties in the last lap. This is Albrecht Motorsports there, closely followed by Agee Motorsports, the number 17 car, just getting a little bit stuck behind the 85 Porsche GTD entry as we stamp on the brakes once again into turn 2. And they are side by side by side. There's racing up and down the field at the moment. Your battle for the lead is extended to about 0.8 of a second in LMP2. So we are watching the battles down the field. And are they two teammates? No, I think they've just got very similar liveries at the front. As we head into turn 4, a little bit of a move there from the number 17 car. Oh, so deep goes the number 59 car. Just about gets it stopped as there's a Porsche off the track trying to rejoin at the apex of turn 5, and that's super dangerous. I think they just about get away with it, which they do. No contacts so far, no major contacts, but it's certainly been a frantic few 10 minutes, only 10 minutes of racing. And I think at this point the drivers will be thinking, it's only been 10 minutes, I feel like I've done a whole stint already.
Well, it mentioned about our leaders, and when they had the stream of LMP2s coming through earlier, Seven, so we're just about to experience them. Right now, Campbell is going to get past by the first of them. What's ideal timing for the pair of them, our leader Barker in LMP2 and our leader in GTD. Exactly when you want to down this long back straight. Volmers is going to get a hold up. No, he's not. Makes light work of the leader GTD, that Porsche of Kinetic Racing, and equally just managing to pull out a bit of a gap to that Mercedes in second place, the RG Racing Silver. And still in GTD, 3 different manufacturers holding top 3 places, with PB Racing in the Ferrari currently in 3rd. I do love the sound that that Mercedes makes. It's that dirty, grumbly 50 cal soundtrack. It's just epic.
It certainly is one of the dying breed of race cars. Of course, the older version of the Mercedes, and I hope for all of our sakes that it stays in iRacing, because I just love the sound of it. And it's great to see the Mercedes so competitive. It's not really known as the most competitive GT3 out there, but at the hands of Fogel at the moment, it certainly is looking so, as he is still within a crucial second of Campbell for the lead. So all's not lost for the battle. At the top of the GTD standings is down the inside goes the 747 car. A little bit inopportunistic there for the 97 car. Just has to turn out of the corner just that little bit and loses a crucial 10th or 2, and that's put him outside the 1 second window. This is BP Racing, even number 151 car, starting to be tracked down by Middleton in the Porsche. The number 6 Porsche, of course, these were racing at the very start of the race. And I think the number 6 just has a little bit more pace at the moment, but it's got traffic to contend with. It's in the background. You see an absolute gaggle of cars heading into turn 4. They're still side by side, almost 3 wide on the exit there. And they are two LMP2s racing side by side. Can't quite see the car numbers there. That's one of the purple LMP2s sending it up the inside of the orange GTD. And that's the number 23 car. That's Dan McFarlane there in the Sim Racing Grid Moist car. And right behind them, oh, we have an accident, Tim. We have our first major accident of the race down at turn 4. And that's DSRT having been caught up in some form of incident. And I think that's going to be an LMP2 induced spin is my guess.
I believe it was Seb, and it's cost him dearly. So you've got a replay coming in now. This might provide us with some answers potentially of exactly what's happened here.
Oh, it's not. I take it back. It's not a LMP2 incident. That's just simple GTD racing. I didn't quite see what caused that, but a great job by the number 52 car there, just to get off the track and avoid all contact. I mean, you know, you lose a lot of time, but endurance race, time doesn't really matter. It's all about keeping the car out of the pits and to not gain damage. So a few places lost, but not the worst thing that could have happened for you, especially as we've got so long to go in this race. Looking at the number 95 car, the Piston Broke Racing team on the back of the number 16 car. So there's been a few swaps for position, because that car says 21st on it, up ahead, the Porsche. So there's been quite a lot of swapping of positions there, 4 abreast as we head down into turn 4. The Mercedes looks towards the inside. Is he going to make it through wide? No, the Porsche's a little bit ahead, and the Mercedes is going to have the inside line that's going to turn to the outside line for turn 5. Is he going to be able to stick it all the way around the outside? He'll have the inside line once again for turn 6. He'll have to be super late on the brakes and committed if he wants it, and he certainly does, and he takes the lead. That's Piston Brake through, and DBST as well also coming through, and that's Resolve Racing down 2 places in the space of 2 corners there, and somehow they all make it through without any form of damage. That's not been the optimal start for DSRT, is it really? I mean, they went off a lap ago and lost 2 places. It's not what they would have wanted to happen.
Most certainly not, Seb. This field still being incredibly tightly bunched after 15 minutes of racing. It's so easy to lose a lot of places early on, and then it becomes the, well, perennial uphill struggle to recover, and really puts pace to the afternoon. What goes from feeling, you know, relatively positive and becomes a very long, drawn-out affair of an afternoon of racing. And just having a...
Oh no! Sorry, Tim, to cut in across there. World of Sim Racing team are across the track, and they've got some front left damage to the car. So what has happened to the number 51 car?
Seb, that part of the track, it's got to have been contact that's invoked that. They need to be careful, because he might bottom out of the car if he doesn't get going quick enough. He's managed to there as Bendy. Let's take a look at the replay. This is going to be in traffic surely. Here we go. Squeezed the outside by the Porsche, and round he's gone into the wall. That move is reminiscent to what we saw in British GTs, where McLaren 720S was sent careering onto the wall on the left-hand side. Well, exactly the same style situation here. That was at Alton Park last season, and wow, World of Sim Racing, that's pushed them right down through the order. They're now down 10 places. They qualified in 8th, now down all the way down to 18th.
Certainly has not been a good race from them. They've got the number 59 car has got a warning, so I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure if that was the same car involved in that incident we just watched. We'll get more information on that. But yeah, World of Sim Racing not had a good start, of course. Not their first incident. I believe they've been at some point backwards, so yeah, not the opening to their race that they would have wanted. Now 1 minute and 10 off the leader. So they are going to be hoping for a full course yellow just to bring them back in to play, because they are just too far out at the moment. This is the number 59 car, so this is the car that got the warning then. So the Z Challenger, driven by Gary Mock, has had some form of incident and has been given a warning. Now, this league runs a 3-strike system, so you have sort of 3 strikes, so you can get 3 penalties, and then your final one, you are disqualified. So if you're a serial offender, if you sort of get involved in too many incidents, the stewards are going to park you, and they're going to tell you why they did it. So this league really encourages clean driving and treating the car as you would if you were in a real race, and you just got to get to the end. So yeah, that's a bit of a blow to their race, because they're 18 minutes in and already have got a warning, so they need to be extra careful. The number 11 car behind them, that is the race 4-Cat Motorsports car, as we head back towards our leaders as they get oh so close together. And that's Barker going to the inside. Down the inside goes Vollemers. I thought he was going to make the move, just has to back out of it, but he's going to have such a run as they both get past the number 16 Porsche. Down the inside goes Barker on the Ferrari, and Vollemers follows him through. They're going to be both stuck on the inside now. This is going to be, and they just about keep it out of the wall, but they definitely made diffuser to front splitter contact there, and that's allowed Barker just gallop away a little bit. Vollemers now in the slipstream, a little bit too far back to make a move into turn 4, and we're all sensible under brakes again, and that is the World of Sim Racing car up ahead of us, and they are not obliged to get out of the way, but I think if you are the leaders, you would be edging those guys on just to get out of the way and let you continue this battle as we head through the twisty section of the track into turn 9. And what can the number 7 car do on the exit? And Barker's getting held up by one of the cars up ahead as we have a car off the track. That's the number 211 car of Nightblind Racing. You're very right. As we head back towards the battle for the lead, round the outside goes Barker. That's a crucial move. He's put a Ferrari in between him and his main rival, which Vollemers has to deal with, which he's done so, but gap is extended to about 0.6 of a second. And again, there's a Mercedes in the way of the battle, and that has put pay to Vollemers' latest attack for the lead. And Barker now streaking away, making it past 2 cars on the straight down towards turn 2. And this is dire for Vollemers. He's got so many cars in between him and his main rival, and there is nothing he can do except just wait and just get on the power when he can. And you can just see how the game changes when we have multi-class racing. These drivers were nose to tail just a few corners ago, and the gap is now up to 1.2 seconds. As a late send there down the inside goes Vollemers up past one of the Ferraris. And I think, Tim, there was, while that was all going on, we had a 1-lap penalty for a car. I didn't quite catch the name.
Too sure. So seeing a replay right now, Seb. So we've got the NRE Sports Audi, Porsche being nudged out of the way there. I believe that was, I think that must have been the Westwood Racing Audi in front of them there, just giving a bit of a helping hand through the corner. Exactly, helping things. And they use another place to the Ferrari of Flex Motorsport, and I think to the BMW too. So not the best of times there, having out on track. Let's look at how that gap is built now, 1.2 seconds. And this is where it gets interesting, Seb, and the mind games and the forward thinking of our drivers has to come into play of where they position their car, because there we go, that's Albrecht Motorsports LMP2.
Yeah, and there's a Porsche involved in that as well. That's the number 85 Porsche, so contact there at the carousel. We have another car off the track. It's Hyper Racing Team and Holzer at the wheel, and that's a very unusual place to lose the car. So what has happened to the number 37 Porsche as well? And I think it was pulling off the track. We head back to the number 96 car, trying to get past the 85 car, who he just made contact with a few corners ago. Pulls to just in front of the car. I think there's an act of unhappiness there from Tobias as he goes through turn 2, and lots of action happening. We're only about 20 minutes in. So this is what happened there to the 96 car. Doesn't make a move into turn 11, thinks better of it. Tries to go around the outside of turn 12. And they either make the lightest of contacts, Tim, or they just sort of spun in sympathy.
They made contact. What it was the Albrecht Motorsport LMP2 came across and just pulled in to tighten up the corner, where it's taking that wide line to make the overtake. Just that bit too soon, and the Porsche was the innocent bystander there and, made contact with the Albrecht Motorsport car. And that's how they end up going off spinning. So very much the fault of the German there, Gabler.
Yeah, and we're going to see more of those throughout the race, which, it's going to be so tricky for the drivers. And Of course, we're going to have a driver change at some point. We're going to run 2 drivers in this race, and you know, it's common functionality that you put your fastest driver in at the start of the race, and then you might put your slightly less confident driver in second. And you tend to see in endurance races actually that sort of the second hour or when the second pit stops start to filter through is when you see the most sort of clumsiest accidents, because it's drivers sort of adjusting to the track and maybe not being so aware of how to drive within a multi-class environment, as the number 37 car has a drive-through penalty. So not sure what that is for. That's the Hyper Racing team. So we saw them off the track a few laps ago, and they have been given a drive-through penalty. So expect to see them in the pits in the coming laps. As they is the number 96 car just behind them. And also, Tim, I think we have the World of Sim Racing LMP2 in the pits as well. No, they are back out of the pits, I do apologise, but they are very firmly in the GTD standing, so they are going to have to make their way through the field. And they've got, just to add insult to injury, the 348 car behind them, and they are a lap down to them, so the World of Sim Racing team might just have to get out of the way. And it's so difficult at this stage of the race. You know, things have not gone to plan, you've got damage, you've had to come in and repair that, and now comes the long recovery. Whoa. And the number 54 car goes off the track, and I think that's it, turn 2. And whether that has been a contact with another car, and oh, there's another one off. It's like it started raining, Tim. That's Fisher Motorsports there. Paddy Schindler at the wheel, going deep at turn 4. Just manages to come back on track. No damage done by the looks of it. And he's lost a few places. And yeah, he's down in 11th place now. Cuts the corner on the turn 7 for good measure. Rear of the car looking very unhappy. Tyres all too hot. And that car does not look like it's fun to drive at the moment, Tim. And what is happening out there at the moment?
Well, these high track temperatures is definitely starting to play a part here, Seb. It's still 43 degrees track temperature. That has come down since the start. As well, you see the GTDs here in flying formation. The Fox Auto Tech Porsche, they're trying to make its way through past Hack Racing. Ferrari just ahead of them, but needs to be careful in those mirrors because those 2 Porsches, Maguire's and driver training. That's tucked up in the for wearing. Oh, this could be a Legend to 4. No, just backs out and thinks twice.
Yeah, it certainly does. Thinking about the long game here, or at least the longer game. I'm not sure these drivers have fully got their sights on the full picture yet. They are in the midst of this battle. As we see, the number 13 car tries to come back at the number 396 car. Can't do anything about it as we head into the braking zone of turn 9. It's Porsche, LMP2. Try and spot the odd one out if you can. As the 143 car is going to do a little bit of a cut and dive across. Gets past 2 of them, but crucially can't get past the lead Porsche of this pack. And then we have a Ferrari in the mix as well. That's the FAC Auto Tech Sim Racing 396 car. Sorry, I do apologise. That's the Hack Racing car. I saw an Italian flag and just thought it was a Ferrari. I do apologise there to Hack Racing. The 111 car driving through turn 1 as we see the World of Sim Racing car once again getting past the DRG car. They are still in 2nd place, unable to catch the Porsche leader, but crucially for the Mercedes car, they are still within touching distance of Campbell in that Porsche. And it's still all to play for, Tim, as we start to get into the sort of the depths of the stint now. Sort of the tyres are at their hottest and their most sort of worn. Your fuel's still pretty high, and it's just about surviving now, isn't it?
I think, yeah, survival has definitely been the main aim of the game here in Mid-Ohio. So many people falling victims already. And as you said, starting to enter into pit window territory. A little bit early for the LMP2s. They'll go for about another 7 or 8 minutes or so, depending on how they've managed to conserve fuel. And the way racing has been out here, that won't have been happening too much, certainly these early stages. For GTD, they will go a little bit longer. Well, they'll be aiming for anywhere closer towards the hour mark.
They They certainly will. And of course, will we see drivers taking tyres or choosing to double stint or even triple stint tyres? We'll have to wait and see on that one. We will keep you abreast of all of the situations and developing storylines unfolding as we watch this battle for the lead. The Kinetic Racing VSCA GT3 car being caught now by the Mercedes of DRG Racing Silver, and these two have been almost inseparable for the entire stint. They started off the race just like they are now. They got separated by traffic, but Fogels reeled Campbell in once again. The gap is now down to 0.4 of a second. That Mercedes looking very nice on the entry of turn 9 there. Able to hug the apex a lot more, and that's going to give him more confidence on the exit as we head into turn 11 now. We see into the carousel, tight, very tight line there from the Mercedes. The Porsche just sort of diving a little bit wide as we have a drive-through penalty for the number 59 car. So I think that might be their second penalty of the day, Tim. So they are getting quite close to that threshold already, and we've not had 40 minutes of racing left yet.
No, it's definitely going to be a challenging one. It's the said, well, for them, it's, and if they've got challenges in the name, it's their challenger, Cloyf Racing GoPro, as they heading to serve their penalty here, Seb. There is the audible alarm of a car coming into the pits, and they go to serve it. As we see the driver training Porsche, this is the Maguire's Porsche, side by side. They're into turn 4, just about making it through, still well, edging each other out, not wanting to through turn 2, apologies, neither wanting to yield an inch, but the Maguire's car just tucks back into the slipstream, but getting boxed in there by the number 17 Agi Motorsports LMP2. That's all maybe they're running a bit too deep, and this is a chance for the Maguire's car to come back.
Oh, the number 13 car, oh, so loose on the exit of turn 6 there, caught out by the elevation, and that's allowed the Audi actually to catch up on the back. So we've gone from attacking a car to watching our mirrors in space of a corner. And just to make matters worse, that Porsche will have such hot rear tyres. The number 96 car scampers through, gets out of the way of this battle very nicely. This is the number 29 car. That's Hatfield at the wheel. Dixon now coming under pressure from the Audi. Of course, these two cars fairly similar, from the same brand at the very least, but certainly racing very differently in different teams. As we head down towards turn 1 once again. Number 13 car just about is surviving at the moment. The tyre temperatures will start to cool down as this is the battle for the lead. Down the inside goes the Mercedes, the number 97 car. Oh, and they touch the Porsche, who is off the track. Your pole sitter is off the track and almost into the path of the Ferrari. He's going to have to concede that position. Yes, he does. And that is the Kinetic Racing car down from first into third, and FBP have gone up into second, and we have a new leader in the GTD class and Fogel. But will there be any penalties for that contact? Will the stewards deem anybody to be at fault? Will that impact the race further as number 14 car now comes through? And is that Fogel dropping off the pace a little bit there? Because I thought he was a little bit further ahead. Doesn't look like he's really driving too slowly, so maybe there's a little bit of a glitch with our timing tower, but I thought he was about a second ahead as the number 14 LMP2 now gets past our new GTD leader into turn 1. Fairly standard move. And now what can FBP Racing do? Can they challenge for the lead? It certainly looks like they are. I think Fogel's letting through the number 67 Porsche. He thinks that he was at fault for that. So to not incur any sort of wrath of the stewards, he wants that position back and, you know, to allow Kinetic through. And that means we have another new leader in this race, FBP Racing. Oh, and there's another accident at turn 4. Oh, and it's our leaders. No, it's second. No, sorry, it's the number 2 car and the number 23 car. I got them mixed over. That's Frederick Boulier there and Dan McFarlane. Oh, and he rejoins, and there's a huge accident on the exit of turn 5. We have
one. That's our leaders, Seb, sorry to cut across you. That is our leaders coming through in GTD, and they nearly, the FBB Ferrari, nearly sent him straight into the side of the Ferrari Sports Group LMP2. Wow, that could have been absolutely disastrous. It could have been far worse, but somehow they get away with it. And I think maybe a bit of loose rear ends coming in. Combination of now having no fuel into those cars, so they've naturally become loose at the rear. Plus those hot track temperatures and hot rears, and they all straight into the back of the 23. And that's what started off the accident.
It did, just too ambitious under braking, and we're going to continue watching this number 2 car because unfortunately for them, their adventurous day is not over.
Oh no, wow, that is not the finest moment for rejoins.
Oh, he does hit the Ferrari. He hits our race leader. They do actually make contact.
Yeah, and the second place car as well, which is Kinetic in the Porsche. The only one out of the lead 3 in GTD was Fogel of DRG in the Mercedes that didn't manage to make contact with them, and they are into the pits.
Yeah,
wow.
Sorry to cut across, you're just looking at that. Oh, is the number 67 Porsche tries to make the move through. That's Kinetic Racing trying to take their first place back from the Ferrari. But they both, as we were saying, have a little bit of damage after that incident with the number 2 car as we head down towards turn 8. And the Mercedes in the background. That Mercedes has picked up damage as well, Tim. It's that from the contact that we saw a few laps ago at turn 4 between number 67 and the Mercedes, or was he also involved in that kerfuffle at turn 5? All the drama seems to be happening around that section, and it's certainly not going to end anytime soon. That is the best overtaking opportunity on the track, and that's where we're going to see every move being made, unless you're feeling extra adventurous. As we look at Patrick Fogel now, and FBP Racing actually looks like one of the cleanest cars out there, so maybe they got super lucky with the damage incurred from that incident with the number 2 car as they lead the race into turn 2. But right, looming behind them in the mirrors is the number 7 car. Is the number 67 car of Campbell. And that Porsche is looking super rapid at the moment. The Mercedes dropping back a little bit. And is this Campbell's best opportunity to make a move? He's stalking the Ferrari up ahead. He's in the slipstream. And we're going to see the Porsche pull out towards the inside. Now he thinks better of it. Does that Ferrari have a little bit more straight line speed? Is he able to use the straight line speed of the Ferrari to his advantage? And are we going to see a little bit of strategy having to come into play now from Kinetic Racing and sort of thinking about the long game here? Thinking about running the tyres long, running the fuel long, and sort of overcutting the Ferrari, because it doesn't look like they can get past them at the moment as
they need to, Seb, because this is the danger that they are now in, because that Ferrari is incredibly good in a straight line. It has the highest top speed of any of the GTDs, but it's not as good as the Porsche through this section of the track, through all the twisty stuff. So if FBP can remain ahead through the twistiest sections of the track, the last 40% of it, then they will keep hold of this lead, because Campbell will have little to no answer for FBP down the straights. So Ferrari is just so strong. It's whether, that's race for Cat Motorsport. They are off the track, and that is the penultimate corner.
Is, and what a dire race for Cat. I mean, they're in 5th place at the moment, but that's certainly not the first time we've seen them off the track. And the number 10 car surely is a little bit cursed. They almost had the win at the Sebring 12 hours earlier on in the year, but for a late accident. And they've also been harmed by post-race penalties. I think they lost out on a win, I think, at Daytona, or Laguna Seca, sorry, as well. So, yeah, not been the greatest season for the number 10 car, and certainly proving that by going off the track. Whether that was forced or unforced, we are not sure. Gets past one of the Audis, but who is that? That is the number 43 car. That's Talk Freak Racing Ascari right behind them. So they are going to have to start throwing some defensive shapes into turn 4, where we're seeing so many of the overtakes happen. And do Talk Freak fancy a fight? Do they fancy just hanging back and just sort of ticking off the laps and sort of starting to sort of play the long game? Because at some point in an endurance race, you really start to need to do that. You need to start thinking about the end of the race and, sort of think strategically. As we see a dive round the outside for Campbell. He's trying to get the lead from the Ferrari, the number 51 Ferrari, But crucially, Fogel is nowhere in the battle. He's been shortchanged by some LMP2 action into turn 2. So this is a two-way fight for the lead of GTD. There is LMP2, the number 79 LMP2 there, making it complicated for the Porsche. He's going to have to start defending from LMP2s rather than attacking a GTD. They're almost 3 wide as we head into turn 5. And somehow they all managed to make it through with no damage. That's actually our race leaders, is it? Yes, it is. So that's Barker and Volumers trying to get through. So our 2 race leaders battling it out on the same piece of track as Barker now looks to the inside to get past the Ferrari. Can't do anything about that, has to wait for the exit now. This is Volumers' best opportunity to get past as we head down towards turn 11 now. Anything can be done for Volumers. No, it cannot. He's just going to have to settle for second place. But Barker unusually defends so tight into the penultimate corner there, and that's put him on the back foot for the final corner. And we have a battle once again for our LMP2 as the Ferrari held on to the lead from the Porsche. But we are watching. Oh, and there's a car off into the wall. That's a Porsche. That's one of the blue Porsches off, and I think they've just hit the grass. And around they go. And that's RS Esports, the number 12 car, and a drive-through penalty for the 2-1-1 car. And that's their second penalty of the day.
It's all starting to happen, isn't it, Seb? We knew it'd be a bit treacherous around here due to the short nature of the track, meaning you're going to lap cars a lot more regularly than what you would do normally. And what was really crucial during that battle as the leaders in LMP2 came past the leaders in GTD was, oh, there's been a big incident, a big shunt. That's one of the Mercedes there, Seb. That is a Gee, I think. No, it wasn't. That's it's the LMP2. Apologies. That's piston broke.
That is piston broke. Huge drama here at the penultimate corner. Oh, as the Mercedes reversing on track, and we're going to see another incident. No, he's just managed to get it to the outside of the track. He's finding out how terrible race cars have in terms of their steering lock. Just manages to get it turned, and around he goes once again. That's Nolan Hodgson at the wheel of the piston broke racing car. And what has happened there? We just caught the end of it, but there looked to be quite a lot of cars either stopped or damaged.
Doubly dangerous because we're right into the pit window of LMP2, and that car being positioned across the pit entry, and it looks like they've just lost it by the south. One of the issues is with the diff on that car. You have to apply a constant, even if it's like a tiny bit of power as you go around the corners. You can't lift off the accelerator fully like you would do. Oh, that's Nightblind having a bit of an issue. 12th in LMP2, and the last car in LMP2 on the lead lap.
Yeah, not going to be on the lead lap for much longer if they continue making mistakes like that. That's at turn 9. I mean, it's such a tricky corner. I don't think I should be talking too much. It's so difficult. I mean, the entry's difficult. You've got so much undulation as you head up towards the apex, and then the exit is equally as difficult as they pull in the pits, deciding just to take their fuel and tyres. And I think that's probably the best opportunity for them and gets them out of the chaos on track. And you never know, with a race that's as chaotic as this, it might just play out just to keep it safe and just sort of aim to get to the end of the race, because who knows what's going to happen. We are 43 minutes in. Oh, it was a drive-through for the 211 car. So actually, yeah, I do apologize. So that was their second penalty of the day. They first got a warning for contact and now a drive-through. So they're not coming into the pits, but I think my point still stands. I think if I was them, I'd be looking to come into the pits and just sort of getting out of the carnage that is the race at the moment and just survive to the end, because who knows where you're going to be. This is Agee Motorsports, who have had their fair share of incidents so far, but luckily for them, their car looking very clean at the moment as they set about trying to catch the number 96 Albrecht Motorsports car, who have also had their fair share of incidents and were actually involved a little bit in that Mercedes spin at this very corner a few laps ago. Just lightly touched the Mercedes as the Mercedes sort of spun back around on track. Now, of course, you know, it's common advice for the drivers that, you know, when you spin, you hold your brakes. But these cars, unfortunately for them, they have ABS, the GTD, so you can't really hold your brakes because the systems are trying to make sure the wheels don't lock. But you end up just not really being able to stop the car from moving. So you do end up with accidents that sort of look really bad and like you don't know how to drive, but you are fully hitting the brakes. It's just the anti-lock brake system just not really working for you there. So That's sort of a consideration to make when we see some of the GTD spin, and you know, it's not always that they're not holding their brakes, it's just the limitations of the car. As we once again rejoin this battle for the lead, Kinetic Racing trying to get past FBP. We'll get that name right eventually. The number 76 car has got a drive-through penalty, and the number 2 car also picked up a penalty while we were talking about the ABS systems. The 151 car just has to pull in to the slipstream of the number 19 car. That's going to compromise him a little bit on exit, a little bit unsighted into the braking zone now. And what can Campbell do on the exit? He's got a much better run. This is his best opportunity so far. The Ferrari goes defensive to the inside, kicks up a cone. He goes so close to the inside line. He's going to force Campbell all the way around the outside as we head into turn 4. What's going to happen? The Ferrari moves back across to try and take the most of the racing line as possible. Campbell's going to stick it around the outside. That's going to turn to the inside for turn 5. The Ferrari's going to stick it out all the way on the outside. It's going to turn back into the inside for turn 6, but Campbell's still there on the exit. He's going to have to be so careful not to hit the grass. They're still side by side as we head into turn 7. Now turn 8. Ferrari is still just ahead, but the Porsche sends it to the inside of turn 9, and they are still side by side on the exit now. They almost make contact as we head towards turn 11 now. This is another place where it's so tricky to make a pass. The Ferrari is still there. He's closing the door as much as he dares. They still haven't had any form of contact. What incredible driving from the Ferrari and the Porsche. They're still side by side on the exit of the final corner, and the Porsche's kicked wide. He's pushed wide and he kicks up dust. He flew up in the air. And that concludes some amazing racing. Half a lap of superb racing. And how would you call that one, Tim?
Well, I think exactly how you have done there, but it's Campbell definitely for Kinetic Racing, the big loser out of all that. Not only dropping that second place to DRG and the Mercedes, but also behind the Talk Freaks, Porsches, race for Cat, finding the grass once again. I tell you what, the amount of times that car's been off, they're not going to need to employ any groundsman services to mow the grass around here. They've firmly done the job for them, but yeah, I mean, talking this about, well, it's on game on once again, but this is going to get even more tricky, Seb, because they're coming through to clear their own class cars now. You see the flashing lights from FBP there in the Ferrari, trying to get it past because he knows that DRG with Fogel is right onto his rear bumper and wants to get dispatch of these as quickly as he possibly can. And it's so treacherous. It is so tricky right now, as well as having to deal with the LMP2. So all that DRG, they're in. They've headed into the pits here, Seb. They've bailed out of all this, taken a slightly earlier pit stop and going for the undercut.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's smart strategy from the Mercedes team there. Just sort of realizing that this traffic isn't as easy to pass as they would have hoped, as the Lamborghini still racing side by side with the GTD race leader actually sends it to the inside. The Ferrari's going to have to be so careful, and that's not really sportsmanlike, and that's exactly what the Ferrari driver will be saying. Evan will be screaming in the cockpit, and that's really hampered him. But we have Porsche on Porsche battles in the background here, so no love lost between the two Porsche cars. Okay, down towards turn 4, Campbell on the inside. Sorry, is that for... That's for position. I do apologise. I thought that was a lapped car, but that's the number 67 car and the number 6 car battling it out for position. Of course, Campbell was pushed wide, and so he lost so much time. And Middleton, who hasn't been too much of a factor in this race so far, has just played an absolute blinder, kept it clean, is now in the battle for the race lead. But now they have to get past the number 94 Lamborghini, who was too kind to the 151 car. And will the fortunes change for the two cars? Is the Porsche as well? Kinetic Racing has a little bit of damage to the front of that car, Tim, and that's going to be hindering them just a little bit. And this is playing into Evan's hands at the moment, your race leader. He is just galloping away. The gap is up to 1.5 seconds as the two Porsches are oh so close as heading into turn 1.
More the intriguing battle for me, though, Seb, is with the DRG Mercedes. Now, from them taking that early pit stop, they've headed all the way down to 20th in class. Yingling now in the car for them from Fogel. And it's... that is our leaders in LMP2 into the pits.
Is indeed, and crucially for that Mercedes fight, I don't think they took tyres, so watch out for them. Let's see, does our LMP2 leader take tyres? Lone Wolf Motorsports also in the pits. They've decided it's time to pit as well. Volumers as well, so I think we are at the limit of our LMP2 fuel tanks. They've done as much fuel saving as they can muster. They're all in, and this is race 4 Cat after a fairly hectic first stint. They'll be hoping for a more subdued second stint, it's fair to say. As Tonino there goes to the lead of the race. So the 112 car, they have yet to pit, so they have managed to eke an extra lap out of that car, but Barker comes out and he is not taken tyres, while others have, Tim, and this is going to play into our hands. Element Sim Racing Fire deciding to take tyres, Cameron Barker deciding not to, so will we see a resurgent number 7 car sort of catching Barker in this stint? Only time will tell. 50 minutes gone, about 1 hour, 50 minutes remaining in the race. As Yingling, so Grant Yingling there, who is the number 97 car, our DRG Racing silver car, they have been given a black flag, and I'm not quite sure if they've received any form of penalty, Tim, but that could really change their fortunes, as they have come out ahead of no, that's a different Ferrari. Are they about to be lapped from the Ferrari? Oh, and the number 2 car dies down the inside of the Ferrari. That's your race leader, and they have a previous in this race. They're not for position. We have, of course, yet to pit the GT3s. Only the LMP2s having to pit at this moment. But that battle for the lead in GTD getting closer and closer. Campbell once again on the back of the Ferrari. He'll be thinking of that Ferrari as he goes to sleep tonight. He's looked at the rear of that car so much. But now we have a new challenger for the lead. That's Middleton, the number 6 car. And what can he do? What can Talk Freak do? And are they going to play the game like Mercedes? And are they going to pit and sort of take the gamble as the undercut? There's a BMW in the pits as well, so they've decided to come into the pits. Who is that? That's Disco Motorsport. They are in. They were from the lower echelons of the grid, so we'll see how that plays out for them as they're still trying to get through the traffic. So that's the Mercedes actually giving the place to the Ferrari, so that is not for position. The number 97 car is being lapped, and that's DRJ Racing Silver with an unknown penalty, Tim. I don't know if you called it because I was caught up in all the action, but they've certainly been given something.
I've been trying to find a way through it. The only thing I think of is for that earlier incident that we had.
When they hit.
Yeah, that's the only possible thing, and really getting in the middle of this fight right now, and they've gone from, well, second on track to now being lapped by the leaders. Now, interesting strategy from them here, Seb. The race is 2 hour 40 now. GT3 will only look to last around about the hour mark in terms of utilising all your fuel. We've got 2 hours 40 of racing here at Mid-Ohio. So what they've elected to do is to take their 40-minute stop now, and then run 2 hour long stints, as opposed to the group we're seeing here now. It looks like they're going to extend out for the full hour for the first one. What are they doing the second one? Well, I'm guessing a few of them will continue on for the full hour and go for 40 minutes at the end. But wow, you can see FBP really pushing out, just kicking up a bit of grass. And can we see when the sun goes in here, the clouds come over, because the headlights really show up in the run down to turn 2 and the exit out of it here. You can see a flash of lights there from FBP, fully on it now, using the Enduro light pack in that Ferrari to all its full effect to say, look, I'm here. An interesting one, their livery as well, running the same colour scheme, the same corporate colours-esque as the British Petroleum, or BP as they're more commonly known, oil company too. I'm sure it's a bit of a coincidence, but an interesting one. But there is a drive-through for number 7, Seb, which is your second place car in LMP2 and overall Element Sim Racing Fire.
Yeah, not quite sure what was that for, but that's really going to hamper their strategy, as they did take tyres, so they are the first of the LMP2 runners to take tyres, but that's completely hampered any form of strategy now. They're going to have to come through the pits and spend about 20 seconds on the pit limiter thinking about what they've done wrong, And I'm sure if we had stewards there, they'd be looking out their window and sort of shaking their finger at them because, the stewards have been extra busy so far. And I think they'll be looking at the clock just like us and going, there's still so much time, but I think everybody's going to calm down a little bit now, but the number 7 car will be into the pits in a few laps time. So that's going to promote Lone Wolf Motorsports up to 2nd place. And just looking at the strategies playing out in LMP2, it's fascinating. Most of the drivers did indeed take tyres, but your race leaders, CMSRacing.com Pro, they did not. The next driver is Rusty Spatulas. That's Duca Tonino, the Rusty Spatulas 112 car. They actually led for an extra lap, so they not only haven't taken tyres, but they extended an extra lap, so doing really well on both fuel conservation and tyre conservation as well. And we have to move all the way down to Dan McFarlane in the Sim Racing Grid Moist car. He also hasn't taken tyres, along with also even a Guy Motorsports not taking tyres, as well as we see Element Sim Racing Fire driving through the pits. I think it's the walk of shame, as it were, but they will be out and about. And actually, are they going to lose the position to the 747 car? I don't think they are, so they might just get away with that one in terms of positions. Lone Wolf Motorsport are on your screen now, so no. And actually, they are starting to be embroiled in a battle with 4th place man Rusty Spatulas and 5th place man Black Dove Racing. So we have a scrap on our hands, Tim, as we once again see the Mercedes who pitted early. And you have to start getting the feeling that that plan hasn't really worked out for the Mercedes, because although they have already pitted, they're still in the same amount of traffic they would have been if they'd just stayed out.
They are. It's definitely not worked out for them. It's a bit of a change here for his Rusty Spatulas and Black Dove. Currently duking things out in LMP2, that all the way over 4th place. Black Dove, of course, he's a little bit down 3 places into 5th, started on the front row, whereas Rusty Spatulas are up 3 places, so definitely the momentum with them right now.
Yeah, I mean, Black Dove so late on the brakes into turn 4. They're going to try the same trick again into turn 11. So close to contact again. Rusty Spatulas feeling able enough just to turn in and cut across the front of that Dallara P217 as we head through the final corner. The 151 car has picked up a drive-through penalty. Loads of penalties going out at the moment as we see the 151. It's the 151 car has picked up a penalty. That is your race leader, FBP Racing, in the pits through the drive-through. So what has happened to them? So your new race leader is Campbell from Middleton. And then we have the number 84 car in 3rd place. The Ferrari drops down to 4th. And what high drama we have. And we're not even an hour into this race, Tim.
It's flipped on its head once again. And Campbell for Kinetic, who looked down and out, Seb, after losing 2 places, after battling for the lead, now finds himself back up into 1st place. Space of around about 20 minutes, so a little bit of luck coming his way, but you've got to be there to take these opportunities when they present them to you in multi-class racing. And wow, great stuff from the American. He's really pushing for a victory here at Mid-Ohio.
Certainly is, and of course, you know, he wouldn't need the luck if he hadn't have been unlucky with the contact that happened down at turn 4 with him and the Mercedes earlier on in the race. So yeah, it all works out in the end. The number 19 LMP2 there tries to get past this little gaggle of GTDs, threads the needle very nicely, makes it temporarily 3 wide on the back straight. They will sort themselves out as we head into turn 1. We're just about to cross the hour mark, so 1 hour of racing. We're going to expect to see the GTDs in very soon, as this is Sean Hatfield, Firestorm Motorsport, the number 29 Audi, out and about. He's got the 396 car just ahead of him, and Pedro Gomez in the 27 Motorsports yellow car behind him. And that BMW has been on such a recovery drive, up 9 spots from where they started. So it certainly looks like the BMW didn't have the qualifying pace, but has more race pace. And as the race goes on, is that going to play more of a dividend? Are we going to see more of this 27 Motorsports yellow car And where do they think they can end up? Only time will tell. That's one of the Rusty Spatula's car going down the inside. No, it's not the number 11 car. I do apologise there, as that's the Race for Cat Motorsport car. As they just get through, now have to get past the Audi, but can't really do it into this section. It's going to just have to hang fire for a few corners through turn 7 into turn 8. And again, not going to be able to do it into turn 9, so the Audi just going to stick wide, and I think we're going to see Race for Cat just sort of go off the outside.
One of these Porsches off track there, I think it was Apex, yes it was, the V Apex Racing Group Porsche. And they're still heading off track. I can't see any visible damage, Seb. But that looks like steering damage to me, actually. Because look, it's at 90 degrees to the right, steering input, and he's barely going straight.
Yeah,
so they've clearly had a bit of a smack with the wall, and that has either bent the steering column or has got some sort of suspension damage, but that's going to be a bit of a lengthy stop for them to get that fixed. But if it's steering column damage, it could actually well be terminal for them.
Really could, and that looked like severe steering damage. It's not a little bit off centre that you can sort of adjust to as a driver. That looked fairly terminal, as you were saying, as they're 3 wide down the front straight there. The 321 car had to jam on the brakes to avoid being involved in some colossal incident on the entrance to turn 1. This is the 112 car and the 438 car. So this is Rusty Spatula's and Black Dove Racing as we head out of turn number 2 down towards turn 4. Gets past number 16 easily, and Black Dove are following through. They've got a great opportunity now. Rusty Spatula is going to hug the inside and going to force Black Dove to go all the way around the outside. How brave are Black Dove feeling under brakes? Talk about brave. They are superbly brake, and that's going to give them the inside line for turn 5, and that's a superb move done for Black Dove Racing, and they are up into 4th place. Rusty Spatula is demoted to 5th, and that's exactly what they would have wanted to see. And now, can they extend that gap, or is it going to be the same next lap? Rusty Spatula is going to be able to use the slipstream again and come back to them and emulate the move around the outside of turn 4. And it looks to me that Black Dove just have a little bit more pace at the moment, and we will see what's gonna happen. And that's all looking good. And the battle, Tim, for GTD still going on. 5/10 separating Campbell and Middleton. Do you think we're going to see them in fairly soon, or do you think they're going to be able to extend it a few more laps?
It's close, Seb. It really is close, because this is prime pit window now, and it's how many of them can extend it as far past the hour as possible. Now, although that won't make a too dramatic difference, what it will mean that come that final stint, they'll have to take on less fuel, which means they'll be stationary for less time, and they'll find that they'll be able to get make up a bit of time or gain a bit of time, depending on where they are currently on track at that given moment. And we'll see potentially some big wins, big losses from that one. But it's all night blind. Wow, keeping it out of the wall somehow. So they drifted sideways there from turn 5, wasn't it? I think yes, 5.
Very unusual to see a car so wide on the exit of turn 5. Night Blind certainly not having the race that they would have wanted. Already a lap down to their class leaders. Alexandria Butters piloting that machine at the moment, gets past lapped traffic into turn 11, and all of a sudden have to regroup yourself instantly. You've made a mistake, but you can't let that affect your driving. You just have to think about the long game now and try and find your rhythm as quickly as possible as they start another lap around mid-Ohio. And this is such a short track. I mean, if you're racing, you can almost feel dizzy at times. I was driving at a much larger track of Montreal a few weeks ago and felt really dizzy at the end of my stint because it was just so intense, and this track is even worse. So it's better thought for these drivers, especially the drivers that are double stinting in the LMP2s, and we're yet to see if any driver fancies a double stint in the GTD class, as we have a look at the 252 car of FBP Racing. Sorry, that's the 151 car. We just switched there as I looked at the timing screen, and that's Gomez off the track at the penultimate corner. So something's happened to 27 Motorsports yellow, and they are going to recover. I think they might have lost a position to Dylan Platt in the 35 Lamborghini. Yes, they have indeed. There, Pedro Gomez either making a forced or unforced error. Whether that had any involvement with an LMP2, we'll wait for a replay to confirm. But that's allowed the number 35 car through. And you have to say, Tim, these Lamborghinis, they didn't look too quick in qualifying, but they're starting to come into their own. I mean, it's sort of the story of the race, really, with both the Lamborghinis and the BMWs. And I think we're going to have a look and see what happened to Pedro Gomez, Tim.
We are now looking good so far. Oh, just gets a bit too out of shape onto the grass, and then that just expands and pushed wide into the penultimate corner, out onto the grass, and that's to take the long way round, and really cost him dearly. Intriguingly, wow, our top guys in GT3 still yet to pit, Seb, and really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in terms of fuel. But Campbell, it's got, it's sitting pretty definitely at the top here as Fisher Motorsport. There's a FPB involved there too. Everyone jostling and jockeying for position, and FPB, wow. Oh, I thought they nearly pulled that one off in spectacular style, drifting onto the brakes, and that's, well, squeezing everyone out wide on the rejoin there. That Mason inspired, but we've got a right old gaggle of GTDs here. And he actually lost a place there to Driver Training Motorsport, who are in 4th place. And right now, top 4 places, they're all Porsches.
Yeah, they certainly are. The Porsche dominance certainly continues into the race, even more so than qualifying. The Ferraris both either dropping back on pace or just having a few incidents. Yeah, the 151 car, also the 84 car also got past. So yeah, the Ferrari went from 3rd to 5th, and the number 94 car, that very brightly coloured Lamborghini, is a lap down, but he fancied the move on the Ferrari into turn 4. Shows the outside line. I think FBP were very surprised actually that that there was this sort of lapped car racing them, but all negotiated very well. Let's have a look at the replay now. We can see on board with the car, he thinks one way, dives down the other, and he's just going to overcook it under brakes, and he pulls first gear, and that's ultimately what allowed the rear tyres to lock, and around they went, as we have a penalty for the number 14 car, and that's a 1 lap stop and hold. So that is a very harsh penalty out there, as we will get some more information on that in a bit as we have a look at indeed sold the BP Racing. It's a very confusing title. I think by the end of 2 hours and 40 minutes I might have just managed to crack it, but there's cones flying off the track. There's just cones flying, I saw there. Not sure what's caused that. A little bit of contact there. Oh, and there's the number 2 car off again, and we're going to see the exact same incident. Oh, it's like deja vu all over again. But this time there were no cars involved, and that's the World of Sim Racing car getting past them. Don't think that was for position though. I think those two are respectively quite far down in their own classes. But that all started between, I think it was 7th and 8th place in the GTD class. They made some light contact, and the number 2 car sort of just had to get out of it, as we see the number 6 car into the pits. And they are the first of our main GTD runners into the pits, at least for the main pit window. And they did overshoot their pit box a little bit, so that's going to cost them a few precious seconds as Jonathan Dance gets into the car. He will pilot it for at least the next hour of racing.
That is the stop and hold currently incurring there for Fisher Motorsport. The number 14 that I was just mentioning, Seb, that picked up that penalty. So not the best. That's the first time they've been into the pits today. 2 of them for penalties. One of them was a genuine stop. So not exactly what they were hoping. Currently lying 16th overall. And last now they're dropped down to 17th because Race for Cat have just passed them. The last running car in LMP2.
Oh, sorry, Tim, to cut across there. We've had a little bit of contact between 5th and 6th place, sorry, in LMP2. And that is Joshua Wolf from Talk Freak Racing Ascari getting ahead of Rusty's Bachelors, but not without a little bit of controversy. Wheel-to-wheel action, or sidepod-to-sidepod, I think we'll call it, through turn 6. And Tonino's car doesn't look as good as it once did. Of course, they did not take tyres, so that car gained positions because they didn't take the tyres, but they're certainly not keeping the positions at the moment.
No, they are really, really not, Seb, and you have to wonder, those drivers who elected not to take tyres, now that's normally completely fine in LMP2, as, oh, there we go, FPP, they are into the pits.
Why have they stopped? They've missed their pit box. Have they missed their pit box? Because they came to a stop. Yeah,
yes,
they have. They've had to tow. So that's disaster for FBP Racing. Evan Ditsold there does such an easy mistake to make of just missing your pit box, and they've had to tow back to the pits. Clearly did not have enough fuel on board to make it one time around once more. And what a disaster. It's gone bad to worse for the Ferrari, hasn't it? I mean, they had pace, they managed to get the lead, and then it's all just fallen apart for them.
Absolutely spot on, Seb. And this is just gifting things to Campbell of Kinetic, who's now sitting really pretty at the top, has a 24, nearly 25 second advantage over the second place car, which is Farco Autotech Sim Racing. And, wow, I mean, they found themselves in a lovely, lovely position. I mean, they are yet to stop. Likewise, our 27 Motorsport Maguire's in 4th in GTD, CMS, and that is the second place car, Farco Autotech, that Porsche. They are into the pits. Likewise, Dixon for Maguire's and the Gomez as well for 27 Motorsport. They're all heading in now. So, last cars yet to pit are, well, I was about to say 5th. They're in 6th, 7th, and 1st. Actually, made that 7th and 1st.
Yeah, I mean, what incredible mileage from Campbell and Taylor out there at the moment. I mean, I didn't expect these cars to even hit the hour. I mean, some tracks, these GT3s really struggle to hit an hour, but they've gone an hour and 9 minutes, almost an hour and 10 minutes by the time they come into the pits. And that's Taylor once again going for another time around, and that is 49 laps on a set, on a tank, sorry. And maybe as well on the set of tyres. Are they thinking of double stinting, or are they going to play it safe? As we watch the number 16 car on the braking zone into turn 2. Don't hear too much fuel saving there, so maybe they know they've got enough. Your race leader Campbell does finally come into the pits. He'll have forgotten where to go after spending 50 laps out on track. And I think we're going to see Taylor as well, as there is a driver change, and that's Vincent coming into the pit, into the car, and he will take over the number 67 car. So that's your new Kinetic Racing driver, as we see two cars in the same pit box. Unfortunately, a symptom of having so many cars. And this is FAC Autotech Sim Racing 396, and they have rolled the dice. And it looks to me, Tim, like they have not taken tyres, while other drivers have. Well, no, they have taken tyres. So I'm a little bit confused why, they're a lap down from our race leaders. Okay, I do apologise there. Got a little bit confused because we saw them come out of the pits, but the pits are about 1 minute and 10, which is almost a lap around here. So while they are moving before the race leaders, as Taylor takes the race lead. So once again, he doesn't come into the pits. Taylor from Resolve Racing, the South African, once again decides to do another lap, and this is Real Pixel Motorsport and Race 4 Cat, I think, involved in an incident.
Safety car, Seb. Safety. We've got full course yellow. So what will happen now is everyone will race up until the start-finish line, and then they will head to their formation zones. As we mentioned earlier, they have to pull across to the right-hand side of the track. For GTD, it's between the entrance and the exit of turn 2. For the guys in LMP2, it's the entrance to turn 4 is where you'll see the first cars line up. Now, what they'll do is that if the leader will head to the front of the box, if they're not, they'll then get wave rounds, and race control will sort all of this out. But this is our first full course yellow after an hour and 12 minutes of racing.
Certainly is, and I think that final incident that we saw was the the catalyst at getting this full course yellow. The way the system works, excuse me, is the system sort of has an idea of how many incident points everybody needs to accrue before the full course yellow is called. It's trying to mimic, you know, like not a red flag, but you know, like a safety car to clean up debris for so many incidents, and we've certainly seen our fair share today. So we have our full course yellow, so everybody's going to come to a stop, and we see, so everybody's told to pull up on the right hand side of the track to allow any faster classes to go through the left, as you just see some of the LMP2s filtering through. And there is, and we have to say that Theo Taylor, for Resolve Racing, your current race leader, it's not really worked out too well for him, because he still is yet to pit. And does he even have enough fuel to get around once more? And if he was sort of marginal on fuel, he's going to have to really be careful now to get back to the pits. I mean, he has done 50.3 laps on this tank of fuel, which is just simply absurd. I mean, incredible feat of driving from the Resolve Racing team. And you never know, that fuel mileage might just help, as we see the number 94 car. I think he's been given the wave bar. Yes, he has. So he's got to go to the back of the GT3 field. So this is all now part of the procedure of the full course yellow. So we see the number 37 has also been given the wave around. So is the 396, number 35, and the number 87 as well. So the objective at the moment is to try and get the number 16 car to the front of the pack, as we see a few more LMP2s also going by. So the number 85 has been waved around. So is the 27 Motorsports car as well, the number 29 as well. So that's all being sorted out. So we make sure that we have our leaders at the front of these two little trains. And then once that's all sorted, we're going to have our pit window. So all the drivers are going to be allowed to drive one lap, and we're going to see some drivers sort of dive into the pits, you know, especially in the GT3 classes. I think you'd only be looking at Taylor from Resolve Racing coming into the pits. I think everybody else has made their pit stop. Actually, Hyper Racing team are currently in the pits, Tim. They're currently in 9th place. So they must be completely out of fuel, Seb, because the pit lanes are actually closed unless for extreme mitigating circumstances. So not too sure why they've had it. Faster Esports as well in the Lamborghini, currently in 25th at 21 places so far, but they are yet to pit. So, and you mentioned earlier, Seb, about obviously Taylor of Resolve Racing currently leading. Now, this is the issue that he's got, is that he got himself, if he'd pitted on the lap prior, he would have been in a much, much stronger position, because now the gap that he had built up, and obviously, you know, between all the cars that were behind him, where they were all nicely spaced out, is now completely and utterly diminished. Everyone is nose to tail. So this is really, really costly for Taylor. And looking at cars on the lead lap, Seb, in a GTD, going to put him all the way down, I would say, to 17th in class. Yeah, it's really not worked out well for him. It's unlike the Formula 1 style where you can quickly dive into the pits and just gain a really cheap pit stop. So, yeah, not worked out for him, as we actually see Theo Taylor struggling to get away. So we've got a little bit of racing going on. The 59 car, the Z Challenger car, slow to get away, and I don't think he's allowed to retake his position, Tim. I think that the 211 car was ahead of him, and you have about 3 or 4 seconds to react before you're allowed to overtake. So we might see some sort of racing going on there. We are not going green at the moment, though. So what's going to happen is everybody that wants to pit is allowed to file into the pits, and then we're going to go and park exactly where we were 1 lap ago. So they are just having to sort of go through. So our leader is in the pits, 2nd place is in, 3rd place is in. Let's see, does anybody risk and stay out? Yes, they do. And that's Lone Wolf Motorsport 747. They decide that they don't want to visit their pit stop or their pit stall at the moment, and they want to continue on. And Theo Taylor has made it back to the pits, and unsurprisingly, he has decided to come in and get a set of tyres, or at least a new tank of fuel, as he stops in his box very nicely.
Oh no, he's overshot it, Seb, he's overshot it!
He has, and oh, so close to getting a penalty there. Oh, he still overshot it. Only now, I think, is he going to start to be able to receive the much-needed fuel he needs. So a disastrous entrance to the pit lane, and that's not what you would have wanted if you are Resolve Racing.
Sorry to cut across you here, but on the entrance turn 1, I did see a large puff of smoke. Now, the way that these drivers are going, I don't think it could have necessarily have been a lock-up. It was a bit of an odd one. I'm trying to have a bit of a look through right now to see if there had been some sort of incident. But yeah, there was definitely a big plume of smoke coming out of turn 1 as, ooh, there we go. We see the Zed Challenger car just maybe overshooting things a little bit and having to off a bit of an Austin Powers 90 million point turn style maneuver there to get himself back into that line. But going back to what you were saying earlier, whether obviously starting off once again the LMP2s, I don't believe. Obviously, we saw one of the cars getting. I think was it VSCA who were really slow to get away. Now, I don't believe that they had managed to be passed, so they should be able to keep hold of that position. It was a bit hard to tell from the camera angle we were currently looking at, as Faster Esports they're still in the pits there, but V8 Taylor, well, I guesstimated about P17 said, but it's good news for him. I say good news. It's only 15th.
Certainly is. The World War I car has just been given a wave by, and the number 12 car as well. So now we're just sorting out once again to make sure that we have the two class leaders at the front of their respective fields. As we see Resolve Racing now parked on the apex of turn 2. So we're just getting the wave bys sorted out. And once they rejoin the back of their respective packs, we will be ready to go racing once again. And unlike the race start, they can race as soon as they cross the finish line. So we are going to see action plenty into turn 1, into turn 2, and into turn 4. And just...
Well, Seb, you say into turn 4, but I think based on what we've seen so far here today, I think it pretty much extends around most of the track, to be fair. I think it won't just be 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think it'll be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then, of course, we saw the mayhem happen, and the treacherous conditions where the LMP2s came through to lap the GTDs on lap 6 it was in the end. I guesstimate between laps 5 and 7. It was lap 6 where we actually saw it. We've got to relive that all again.
Is that a little bit of contact there between the 27 car and the 27 motorsports car?
Ooh. I was looking at the timing our timing software to try and see what was happening, like where people are sorting the sounds out and whatnot. I missed that.
Yeah, unfortunately my software as well was glitching a little bit, so I don't know if that was sort of a trickery of the software, or actually there was a little bit of contact there, as there are still wave bys being sorted out. Sorry, Tim, I missed your point that you were making as as having those technical issues, and I also cut across you, so
That's
apologies
okay.
for that. I just noticed in our YouTube chat, we've got one of the drivers in there, and the quote is, "It's madness out here with the amount of cars," and it certainly looks like that way from the commentary box. And I think it wouldn't be this race without a little bit of action underneath the safety car as well, as we're still having a few more wave bys. And there is the FBP car and the 321 car as well, just joining the back of the pack. So we've got a few more cars now to come through. And what's happened to the number 10 car, Tim? Because they're in the pit still. That's race 4 cap. And they have they got damage, and have they decided to take it underneath the full course yellow?
I think they've got to be set, because they've been in the pits for, well, they've been stationary lane for 4 minutes 20 seconds. So I think they've elected to head in and utilise this period to try, they're on the lead lap still. So yes, they will drop a bit further down through the order, but as we've seen, we're now just into the second half of the race here. This is going to take a little bit of time to resolve things. If we have another 1 or maybe 2, that all of a sudden, that could prove to be an absolutely inspired move by VSCA, and we'll see them start to climb through the order and the race start to come back to them. Could be an interesting one. We'll have to keep an eye on that for the second half of the race.
Certainly will, and of course this really spices up our LMP2 field as well, because all of the drivers that were a lap down are now suddenly back on the lead lap, at least the ones that were in front of our leader after those pit stops sort of shook themselves out. So we have certainly got a race on our hands in LMP2. That is
Seb. So Race for Cat have just come out of the pits. So they are going to remain on the lead lap despite being stationary for 5 minutes and 22 seconds. That has worked out an absolute treat for them.
Yeah, I mean, if that was a split-second decision, that's a superb decision to make, because that's really helped them and allowed them to fix whatever gremlins were going on in that car, and they're just going to slot in behind the number 54 car. And I think we are about to get underway. Yes, indeed, race control have told the drivers to proceed at pace, speed. So they are going to do 2 laps, or 1.5 laps almost, of pacing. So our race leader now is Lone Motorsports 747. Then behind them, Element Simfire Racing. So they also didn't pit, did they? No, they did pit. I'm trying to work out. Yeah, so our second place driver, Element Sim Racing, have actually pitted. They had an 18-second stop, so not as long as you'd expect. They've just taken fuel, so they're on full fuel. And of course, remember, they took tyres at the end of last stop, so that's worked out a treat for them, because they've got full fuel, fairly new tyres, and are behind a driver that doesn't have new tyres, and is running low on fuel, so they're going to have to come in sooner. So it's certainly advantage Element Sim Racing Fire at the moment. Third place in the LMP2 field is the Trading Paints Racing team. As we look towards your GTD field, we still have Kinetic Racing VSCA GT3 in the lead of their class, with Jonathan Dance for Talk Freak Racing Maggots even in second place, with Grant Younglin, who of course pitted early in that Mercedes. He is up to third place but has less fuel on board than his rival, so while he has got track position, he has not got the fuel on board. But of course, with this stoppage, it might allow them just to get closer to the window again. And has this worked in their favour? They haven't taken the lead, but they are certainly closer to where they should be, or at least their pace should suggest, as we again across the lines. We will be going green next time by, and they can race as soon as they cross the start-finish line. They can overtake, so anything beyond that is fair game, although they are instructed to not go 3 wide on the opening lap, just for safety's sake, as we don't want repeat safety cars. So as they all file through, Talk Freak Racing, Tim, they've done such a good job. I mean, they started, according to my software, it says they were 24 places, but I think that's a little bit of a glitch. But I mean, they've done a great job, because I know they're the number 6 car. Okay, so our software is having a little bit of an issue, but I mean, they've played a blinder, haven't they? They've sort of kept out of all of the incidents that we've seen, in the lead, and now they're just they're just here, and they're in a Porsche, and crucially a Porsche that isn't damaged.
Yes, and that as you say, that last point to it is the most crucial. That isn't damaged, so they're going to be good to go. We saw them; they were 4th, obviously, before the round of pit stops. DRG, they looked really down and out. However, they've come right back into the mix as the Mercedes, also the Ferrari. Just trying to have a little look down at FBP. Well, despite a lot of drivers being able to make gains during the pit stops, they're down and out, I think, realistically now, Seb. Although they're still on the lead lap, yes, they are. They're all the way down 19th in class, so victory is going to be a big uphill struggle for them here today. Whereas they were looking quite pretty at the top, but Lone Wolf, let's see what they could do. As you mentioned, the only team other than Z Challenger not to stop in LMP2.
Certainly are. As we go green once again here at Mid-Ohio. Great start from our race leaders to head into turn 1. No changes for the lead. And I think that was a clean restart from all involved, as we look back towards turn 1 to see if there's any incidents. There isn't really. They're side by side on the entrance to turn 2. That's Rusty Spatulas on the outside, with Talk Freak on the inside, battling for positions. That's Talk Freak trying to keep ahead of Rusty Spatulas, which they managed to do. But Rusty Spatulas are going to have an amazing run out of turn 2, down towards turn 4. Are we going to see more drama of turn 4? Don't think we are at the moment. They're almost 3 wide though on the braking zone. The 59 car's so wide, and Joshua Wolf for Talk Freak Racing Ascari is off the track, and the 59 car as well has come a cropper on the exit of turn 4. And now we have all the GTDs filing through as well. They are still racing in the LMP2 field, but in the GTDs we have Vincent Herbeyer in the Kinetic Racing VSCA Porsche in the lead, with Dant and Yingling battling it out behind him, and a great restart there from your GTD leader. As we see, he's got that crucial gap, and more crucially, Yingling really on the back of Dance as we head through turn 11 now into the penultimate hairpin. Is there anything that the Mercedes can do? Of course, he is on a lighter fuel setting. He has got a lot less fuel in the car, so more pace, more inherent pace. Although his tyres will be a little bit more worn, but that fuel cannot be underestimated. It is so powerful when the fuel drains out. The car feels alive. It feels like a completely different class at times. So can the Mercedes driver use that to his advantage and take second place from the Porsche? We'll have to see. Further down the field, the number 35 car's looking a little bit interested in getting past the number 13 car into turn 2. Thinks better of it in the end, but we'll try and get him back on the turn. Into turn 4 even, as we see the number 94 car racing the number 111 car, and the number 37 car just ahead of that. And that number 94 car has really benefited actually from that full course yellow, because they were a lap down and struggling, but they are coming through the field at a rapid pace at the moment. And they're on the back of David Sloutier at the wheel at the moment. There's a 111 car on the inside of the number 77 car. I thought there was going to be a little bit of contact at the apex of turn 4, but they all managed just to make it work out with no additional trips to the grass at all. It's the number 16 car Resolve Racing now down in 22nd, Tim. And what has happened to Theo? Because he, don't forget, was our race leader before the full course yellow, but didn't he come out in sort of 15th-ish?
He did, yes. I was suspecting he was going to come out in 17th. He came out in 15th, in fact, and he's lost a ton of places in these opening stages after the full course yellow. Definitely being hampered as looking in LMP2 race for Cat. Well, so they're about to lose a place at a G here. Having a good fight back, run down to 4. They're going to make it stick here, I think.
Sorry to cut in, Tim. The number 10 car has just received, I think, a drive-through penalty, so this is almost in vain. It's not really going to matter too much, as they're going to have to take another trip to the pits. As the 396 car as well also picks up a drive-through penalty. So I think as soon as you're informed that you have a penalty, you sort of, there's no point fighting. And that's VAC Auto Tech here, the number 396 car, driven by Roberto at the moment. They're going to have to make an unplanned trip to the pits to serve their penalty. So that's really disastrous for them, up in 8th place at the moment. Although they actually are a place down from where they started. But they are doing very well at the moment, but under pressure from the number 52 car behind him. He wants to get past even before they've had to serve their pits. They're going to go side by side as we head into turn 11. And he's going to go all the way around the outside, which the Ferrari does very nicely. And you got the sense there that Roberto wasn't really fighting that too much. He knows he's got to peel off into the pits, which he instantly does. And sort of knows there's no point risking the car and ending up in an incident that, you know, either damages the car or gives you another penalty. So sort of let that one go. Oh, we have a crash! Who is that? That's the number 211 car off the track. There's two off. There's 2 off, so that's the number 23 car, and that's quite some severe damage. And the 211 car as well, Night Blind Racing. Feels like they spent more time off the track than on it today. And what has happened at turn 4? I think I should stop being surprised at things happening at turn 4. And Tim, talk us through what has happened.
See Butters here, the 211 of Night Blind Racing. And that is Sim Racing Grid Moist in front of them and misjudges the braking. And the pair of them then end up while off the track, falling through the order. And it's all gone wrong from Racer Cat. They are back in the pits once again. Oh, they had to serve that penalty, didn't they? So that is why they're in.
Yep, the drive-through of shame, I think I'm going to call it, because yeah, it's not what you want. I mean, at least a stop and hold, you don't have to sort of drive past everybody. It's very embarrassing to get a drive-through, actually, or at least I find. Always, it's like, you know, when you get in rental carts and you called into the pits to tell you what you've done wrong. I've never had that happen to me, apart from all the times that it has, but I'd like to point out that it wasn't my fault, most of it. Anyway, so Race for Cat out and about in 14th place overall. I keep on looking at those little number boards on the side of the car. If you're wondering, when you see these sort of like little electronic numbers, that's their position, but it only updates once a lap. So I was like, oh, they're still in 12th, but no, unfortunately they're down to 14th. Platt is making some moves though, as we see the battle for the GTD lead closing in once again. And we have a battle between Kinetic, Torque Freaks and DRG even, racing silver, and that Mercedes is looking feisty, but crucially they've managed to catch onto the back of Kinetic Racing, so Kinetic unable to really switch on the pace that they had only a few laps ago before the full course yellow. Of course, everybody's changed drivers, and you know, some of these races can really be decided by the confidence of your second driver. I mean, if you look at real world motorsports, when you sort of have more like gentleman drivers, and you always hear the crucial aspect of how good are your arm drivers, and I think it's sort of the same in these sorts of races. If you have a team that maybe isn't the fastest but has two very consistent and similar pace drivers, it really helps out the team in the long run. So maybe we're seeing some of that there. I mean, these drivers are still incredibly talented, and I don't want to take anything away from them in that regard. But the gap ahead is certainly closing in, although the Mercedes hasn't had the best final sector. Dropped off just a little bit. Maybe the tyres getting a little bit too old for their own good. We'll have to see this battle develops. But crucially, they have quite the gap back to this little fight between Dylan Platt, and then we have Chris van der Ness, Dennis Earhart, Robert Oostings. And oh wow, did you hear that noise, Tim? I don't think I've ever heard the Porsche make that noise. It sounded almost sick. If I knew better, or if I knew worse even, like I would have thought that car had some form of engine issue, but well, we don't unfortunately have anything of the sort in iRacing, but there were some very weird noises at the apex of that corner.
It was having a right old royal grumble. I'm not too sure, well, I think just from the short shifting down maybe a bit too early into first. And do that, you have to be really, really careful, because what it can do is lock the rears and send you spinning, and especially with all the weight of the car being at the rear in the Porsche 911, and notorious being one of the few cars in the world ever to have the engine positioned in the boot as Night Blinder. Well, they are off again. That is at the keyhole, and well, they didn't manage to go through the keyhole.
No, they didn't, but avoided any sort of contact with rejoining, which we've seen from other LMP2s today, as they're racing down the field. This is between Black Dove Racing and Torque Freak Racing Ascari. So once again, this battle is raging on, and Torque Freak now trying to catch up. Of course, Torque Freak went off, didn't they, at the restart? They had a little bit of an excursion off the track, so they're trying to regain those places that they lost a few laps ago. And we've seen Black Dove, we've seen their overtaking abilities. Now we're going to see their defensive abilities. Going into turn one, no defensive shapes needing to be thrown there. It's a fairly on the limit corner for all cars involved, as we are firmly in the traffic section now. And we are catching, as the LMP2s, we are catching the GT3s. Into turn two we go with Black Dove Racing. And you just don't get the sort of perspective. Here we go, here's the perspective we were looking for. Just see how many calculations you have to make. Oh, and Torque Freak's got so much more speed. They're going to make it 3 wide. Are they going to make it 4 wide? No, Torque Freak just has to back out. They were blocked in by one of the Porsches there. And great awareness there from Joshua Wolf at the wheel, because that could have so easily been a humongous accident on the straight. And I for sure was thinking it was going to end up 4 wide, and we'd see cars go left, right and centre, but they all managed to avoid any form of incident now. Joshua Wolf on the inside, that's going to become the outside, but gets blocked by the 321 Ferrari. Can't do anything about it there. He's going to have to sit in behind his rival, as we see the 438 car get so wide on the exit, really squirming around. Joshua Wolf just got so much more pace at the moment. And he tries to go all the way around the outside of the carousel. They're side by side. Joshua Wolf has to just think better of that. Can't really do much about that. Cuts towards the inside as we head down the straight towards turn one again. Torque Freak Racing still trying to get past Black Dove. Can't do it at the moment. Next real opportunity is into turn two. but I don't think that's much of a possibility with all the cars around him. As they just get past one of the lapped cars into the braking zone of turn 2 now. As you just see, unable to really find the apex of turn 2. That's going to hurt him on the exit. 3 more penalties for drivers out on track, the number 96 car and the number 211 car, and that is firmly not helping the 211 car in their race today. I don't think they'll be enjoying this one too much. It's down the inside goes Talk Freak Racing. They're side by side with their main rivals in the race. Can't do anything about it though. And Black Dove still keep the position as we are really in the mix of the traffic. Talk Freak setting up for a move on the exit. Black Dove cover that off very, very nicely as we head down towards turn 11 again. You just see how much more speed Talk Freak's got as they almost go into the back of the Ferrari. So close to contact. They just avoid all sorts of contact though, so no harm done there. And Talk Freak still on the back of Black Dove Racing. A fantastic view on board this Dallara built LMP2 as Black Dove there sends it to the inside of the number 94 Lamborghini. And Joshua thinks better of it, and I think that battle's dying down a little bit, but what an incredible view that was, Tim.
It was. You really get the perspective from what it's like to try and have to pick your way through the field. As you mentioned earlier, Albrecht and Nightblind both picking up drive-through penalties, as we've seen in the GTD. Oh, it's 252 and the 52, the Porsche and the Ferrari banging doors there. And the Ferrari of DSRT, RJB Solutions making it through. Ousting Robertson from 6th place in class. Move up there. And what sort of progress can he make? Because the Maguires, Porsche's about second road. As DRG, the Ferrari, they are in. And actually, this is now, Seb, I spoke about this earlier. They stopped on 40 minutes. So they've gone a whole maybe a little bit shy compared to some of the people we've seen. But they have gone a whole new hour, so they are on a completely different pit strategy to everyone now, and they will be stopping at. Then this will take. If they can pad the fuel out, Seb, this is them stopped, and they won't need to stop again.
A little bit concerning. Yeah, it's a little bit concerning for them though, Tim, because we've also had the full course yellow, and that would have extended the time. So, you know, we saw drivers doing sort of like 68 minutes on a fuel tank, but you know, they've barely managed to get an hour with like 12 minutes of stoppage time.
Well, Seb, I think what they're trying to keep to the original plan here, just throwing in a small amount of fuel, get themselves back onto their original plan strategy, because all it takes is one more full course yellow, and especially if there's 2, and they'll be right back up to the top of the timing standings once again.
Yeah, that is a really good point. We'll have to see if that gamble works out. It certainly worked out for them when the first full course yellow came out, as we have the number 87 Audi off the track, and only one lap ago they were flashing their lights at this very part of the track, so maybe a little bit of frustration creeping in there for the Westwood Audi car, and that is the Sim Racing Grid Moist car of Mark de Boer off the track at turn number 6, and I think he's lost it probably on the exit of turn 5. Maybe a little bit more contact involved, but it doesn't look like that car's damaged, so I think it might just be a little bit of a spin, as I think we're about to get another drive-through penalty for the number 221. Exactly, that's what's just happened. So the number 221 once again having to come into the pits, and it's not been 211, sorry, and it's not been their best race. You have to say that if it doesn't rain, it pours for them. As we see the number 23 car as well coming through the pits, and I wonder if they're coming either for a penalty or coming in for, I think that's just a drive-through, Tim, actually, so apologies there. So Sim Racing Grid Moist coming in for a drive-through, and that was also our one-time race leader at one time. Who is that? That was Theo from Resolve Racing coming in, so they've driver changed that. Mark Romaniski gets in the car, takes over from Theo in that Resolve Racing car. So interesting to see that strategy, because it hasn't been too long since the full course yellow, so not quite sure what's happening out there. Are they a little bit worried about driver time, do you think, Tim? Of course, both the drivers have to do at least 40 minutes, so maybe they're a little bit concerned about driver time?
I think that would make a lot of sense right now, Seb. A little bit early, you know, still plenty of time. 2 hours 40 is all. That is the faster esports Lamborghini even. Well, that was a little bit close on the rejoin there. I'm sure there'll be a flash of lights from the Real Pixel Motorsport BMW, because that could have been heavy contact for the pair of them. And look who's behind them. It's the FBP Racing Ferrari. Now coming into the fight and starting to just gradually creep their way up the standings. It's a massive order for them to try and get back to where they were, but we've seen so far, Seb, anything can happen and anything will happen.
If it's going to happen, it's most likely going to be happening into turn 4, which is exactly where we are at the moment. Although FBP doesn't really think about a move on the Real Pixel Motorsports BMW up ahead of them. Thinks about making that move later on in the lap, or maybe at the start of next lap. I think drivers now really starting to think about the end of the race, as we see the number 35 car into the pits. That's Dylan Platt, and they were in 3rd place. And we have a drive-through penalty for the number 95 car. And I don't think this car's been black flagged, so I think this is just a standard pit stop for them, which it is, and it's the Nolan Hodgson car, the piston broke number 95 car. They are the ones that got the drive-through penalty, so they are coming in to serve that drive-through.
The TR powered by Geeks Energy car, they've had a driver swap, Seb, the one that we saw coming in earlier, the Lamborghini up on the jacks right now. Corey Hockin getting into the car, the Canadian. So we see the Mercedes exit after their drive through there. So yes, I think, like you said, a few of the drivers a little bit erring on the side of caution in terms of their ability to see this through and get that driver time in. Of course, anyone stopping now can make it through to the end, especially if we have another full course caution as well, Seb, because we've seen, you know, that it's not done and dusted in, you know, 30 seconds by any stretch of the imagination. So that's just going to save you on fuel and also that tyre degradation too. So he's stopping early could well prove to be an inspired move.
I think it certainly could, and it's always nice to see different teams trying different strategies. It's always really boring when everybody just does the same strategy, as we see Carl Robertson, who is in the lead of this train, actually picking up another drive-through penalty. So they will have to again come into the pit. So yeah, drama here for the 5th place battle in the GTD class. And Drivetrain and Motorsport will be soon making their appearance into the pits, and that's going to allow the 27 Motorsports car to gain that clean air and maybe sort of push up towards the back of the number 52 Ferrari, the DSRT team. So this is sort of played into the 27 Motorsports hands. Of course, our leading BMW, they started all the way down in, I've set myself up for some maths here, all the way down in 17th place, and they are up now. And actually the Porsche there side by side with them, the number 77 car, and they make a little bit of contact as we head into turn 6. Number 77 car pushed very wide, and I don't think they'll be super happy with that. I think we might expect to see a little flash of the headlights as the drivers express their dissatisfaction with the move, although these drivers are being all very well behaved, so I'm very, very surprised and happy at the drivers. No BMW GTE IMSA driving as we see, as we're side by side once again with the LMP2 class this time. Joshua Wolf finally getting past Rusky Spatulas into turn 4. Nice and clean move done, and that's Rusky Spatulas down to 6th. Talk Freak up into 5th place, and the gap though now opened up to 10 seconds between 5th and 4th place. So Joshua Wolf has a long way ahead of him if he wants to catch up to the back of that fight. But if he can gain those 10 seconds, or if there's another full course yellow, he'll be right in there to go for the lead once again. It's the we haven't really spoken about them too much, Tim, but the Lone Wolf Motorsport 747 car, they're still out there lapping away. I mean, they didn't come into the pits, and they are, our race leaders. And you know, I would have expected the number 7 car to catch up to them. You know, they're on fresher tyres, they've got more fuel, but, you know, like, Volumous, you know, was leading or trying to lead the race at one point. So, I mean, an amazing job by Lone Wolf Motorsports.
Absolutely stunning job. I was just about to say, Z Challenger Kaloif, the only other team yet to come in. However, they've just visited the pit, so they stopped on exactly the same lap previously as Lone Wolf. So I'd imagine we're supposed to see Lone Wolf in very, very shortly. But I'd tell you what, with that light and fuel load that they are carrying, they've really managed to put the hammer down and pull out a 3.9 second advantage over Volmans. Definitely Brandenburg for Lone Wolf able to clear the traffic far more efficiently, and there you go, they are in, and what a great in lap for them. Onto the brakes, and they at least have the advantage now of a pit box further down the pit lane compared to some of the drivers that we've seen struggle with those pit boxes right on the entry. And now we're going to see the car go up onto the jack. So they're going to take tyres. Wow.
Change drivers. That's Pedro Gomez getting in the car for Lone Wolf Motorsport. So, oh, it's a number 79 car way off the track there on the entrance to turn 2. And they were our race leaders at one point. That's T. Fisher driving the car. Thomas Fisher even driving the car at the moment. And oh, so close to a crash. They are almost full white him on the back straight.
They are. I don't think we've quite not seen a 4 wide yet, as darting for the inside there to cover the Alpha CMS. Looking to get back out in front, of course. They led early on. And Southern Element have been really juking things out, but just give you an idea on Lone Wolf. See, they came in the pits from the lead. Looks like they're going to come out, Seb, in 11th place, possibly even 12th. Or car off and going again. So just hopefully stay with these guys, see where they do come out. And yes, they're going to come out in 11th at 12th, which is Night Blind. Not too far behind them. There you go. You can just see him in the background.
Yeah, certainly can. Actually, once again chooses the LMP2 line, it seems, of just going on the grass on the entrance to turn 2. Doesn't seem to affect any form of stability under braking, which is quite amazing within itself. But yeah, you're right. Very close between 11th and 12th. But I'd be surprised if we see Lone Wolf Motorsports in the pits again and taking tyres. I think they're going to run these tyres now to the end. About 50 minutes of racing left to go here at Mid-Ohio for round number 4, as that is the Lone Wolf Motorsports car off the track on the exit of turn 5, and that is not how you want your out lap to go. Pedro Gomez pushing a little bit too hard, too fast on those cold tyres, and it's probably a very different track to one that he's driven in practice. I mean, the track usage is going to be so high. We've had so much racing, so much action down at that corner. It's going to be super, super grippy as you see the track temperature 103 degrees Fahrenheit, which my very quick mental maths, which doesn't involve going to Google, will indicate that it's a very, very hot track out there, and that's going to really hamper the grip and really make the opening few laps tricky. You know, you might think it's about 40 degrees Celsius, but you know, you might think, well, if it's a hot track, you know, cold tyres will be easier, but it works sort of the opposite, that it's such a disparity between the tyres and the track. It makes for a really horrible opening few laps, and just sort of seeing the effects there as we see 252 car coming through the pits for their drive-through penalty. That's Kyle Robertson, Drivetrainer Motorsport, actually kicking up the pit exit cone. And yeah, stewards would not be too impressed with that one. Thank God it's not too bad. Just the number 59 car there, dicing and slicing its way through the traffic into turn number 2 we go. And that's the FBP car, the 151 Ferrari, in 12th place at the moment, trying to chase down the number 312 BMW in 11th place, as Carl Robertson in the Drivetrainer Motorsports car has dropped off the timing stands, Tim. He looks like he might have disconnected, so that's disaster for them after leading, or being in 5th place, leading that gaggle, to then get the drive-through to now disconnecting. It's just gone from bad to worse for them.
It really has. It's much more rotten luck as into the pits. That is Element. They are in. This is going to be a bit of a tight squeeze here, Seb, for them to go to the end. This may be 1 or 2 laps a little bit earlier than what they would have anticipated, but I think definitely a few of the teams, them being one of them, gambling on another full course yellow period.
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that, Tim, as we've still got racing on the front straight. As, yeah, this battle between, actually, it looks like that's Rusty Spatulas catching up to, sorry, Black Dove catching up to Rusty Spatulas. So Black Dove are once again going to try and use their overtaking abilities to get past another car, this time the Rusty Spatulas LMP2, and bringing along for good measure the number 10 car as well. So that's going to get very, very spicy in a minute, as we actually see a change for position. Rusty Spatulas almost letting through Black Dove Racing, so they're up to 4th place. Rusty Spatulas being demoted to 5th, as we see the number 10 car just behind in that little battle, as they all just sort of sort themselves out.
Starting to trip over one another a bit now, Seb, and we've got these battles going on and just trying to find a way around the slower GTDs. It becomes a little bit more treacherous. You said earlier about the track usage. There's going to be a build-up of marbles, which are little bits of rubber that come off the tyre, and those build up off the racing line. The more that the track race goes on, and it's going to become where we saw a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing in the early stages, side by side for half a lap, maybe even more at times. There's all hometown heroes off the track there. Huber finding the grass on the exit at the corner, but yeah, where they're having to, especially the LMP2s, where they're having to move offline to get past these GTD cars. They're going to really struggle because they're going to get onto those marbles, so that means they're going to have a reduction in the amount of grip they have them, because effectively they're like driving on a bed of marbles, and the cars become very loose, very skatey, very easy to lose the rear. As Rusty Spatulas, you see them just on the screen now, they've just picked up a penalty. So it's going to make it all the more challenging for them coming through these sections of the track, especially after turn 4, where there's lots of potential for side-by-sides. As, oh, there we go, Rusty Spatulas coming in to serve their penalty pretty much instantly there. So it's going to really, really hamper them, and I think we could start to see a few more mistakes start to creep in inside what were last 45 minutes.
Stop and hold for the number 16 car. So Stewart's not happy with whatever incident they were involved in. That's the Theo Taylor car, yes it is. So that's the Resolve Racing car. So that's disastrous once again for them. After leading the race at one point and getting the most amazing fuel mileage I think I've ever seen in a GT3, that's all going to, unfortunately for them, come to nothing, because they are going to be in the pit. So disaster for them, and we are really seeing sort of two sides to this race, Tim, of drivers that have been lucky, you know, whether it be through incidents out on track or with the full course yellow, and drivers and teams such as Resolve that unfortunately for them just haven't had the rubber of the green today.
No, they really haven't. There's definitely been a few teams out there that have had a bit more luck on their side, others that haven't. Resolve, as you say, one of them that full course yellow just came at the wrong time for them, and a lap later, and I think, or two later, they would have been okay, but because it came when it did, they saw them demoted from first all the way down to 15th, and then that poor restart they had saw them down to 21st in class, and that's where they still sit right now. They're currently 4 seconds adrift. The Audi in front of them of Firestone Motorsport.
Indeed, we see that Audi, one of the only Audis out and about, the other one being the Westworld Racing esports car. As there's a little bit between LTS Motorsports and DRJ Racing Silver. Patrick Fogel back behind the wheel of that car to take it presumably to the end of the race. Thinks about the inside, but tries to go all the way around the outside of turn 1. Not really an overtaking opportunity unless you're feeling incredibly brave, which thankfully for Patrick, he doesn't decide to go for the move, so will stay behind, tries to get the better racing line into the corner. The Ferrari almost caught out by defending from the LMP2 there, but he's all good on the exit, just showing that different lines do work around turn 2. So we are down towards turn 3, the little kink here, and now towards turn 4, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the track. Does he think about making a move? Just backs off, so Fogel can't get past the number 20 Ferrari, and this car we think can just about go to the end of the race, or especially they can if there's another full course yellow. So we really need to be sort of watching them with the idea of, you know, they don't have to stop again, so where are they going to come out overall? So, you know, this is really crucial race winning stuff from the Mercedes team. They really need to make these moves and not too much and not lose too much time when doing it. So it's this real sort of like double-edged sword that they have to sort of strike a fine balance with. But Fogel certainly doing that at the moment, sort of choosing his battles wisely, and doesn't, you know, you don't want to get involved in a, you know, like what we saw earlier in the race with two cars going side by side for the entire lap. You know, you really just need to make it move. And again, Fogel has much better drive out of the final corner, but can't really capitalize on that into turn 1. His second and third place in the LMP2s are in the pits. Trading Paints Racing Team and Talk Freak Racing Ascari both in the pits, and unfortunately for CMSRacing.com Pro, they are in the lead, but they are still yet to pit once more. So while they are looking good at the moment, they're certainly not looking good for the overall race win unless something happens later on. Of course, always an option of a full course yellow. The number 51 car sends it to the inside of the number 20. A little bit late, I think, for the number 20's liking, and that's going to allow the Mercedes once again to sort of catch up a little bit, but it's another point of the track where they can't really capitalize on that too much, and they're just going to have to just wait and see what's happened. The number 2 car there getting past the Mercedes, going to try to get past on the exit of, and that's the 396 car off the track, and that's at the second to last corner. And he's cut, I think he's just cut across, clean cut across the final corner.
That was our leader. That was our leader, Sam. He was caught up in that too. I'm sure, yes it was. Fisher was involved in that. So drama for our leader, hence why they've headed straight into the pits. I mean, they would have been due to roughly about now anyway to get themselves home. But here we go. Here's the replay. So that's the 79 of CMS Racing. So they're going to lap around the Porsche that just understeers out into them.
Oh, disaster for the number 79 car, and that's really costly for them because they were within a little bit of a shout of the race win. Not much, mind, but that's almost eliminated that because that just extra time has cost them so much. They're actually going to come out behind the Ascari car of Talk Freak Racing Ascari. And I think they would have been just ahead of them if they hadn't have had that spin. So really not worked out for them. They're going to have to be careful now because they've got a few LMP2s behind them. Mind that one of them isn't for position. That purple number 23 is not racing them, but then this number 96 car certainly is. So yeah, Fisher has gone from sort of being able to sort of lap and do what he wants to now really in the thick of the action. As we see the number 23 car frantically flashing the lights at one of the GTD cars into turn 4, and that all works itself out very nicely. About 40 minutes left to go in this race, and what do you think, Tim? Are you going to be able to make it? You know, 79 car, do you reckon they're going to be able to make it? Go on, place the bet.
Well, it's going to be tricky. I think this, the people stopping now in LMP2 they'll make it to the end. But I think a full course yellow will definitely help them to make it to the end. But the trickiest though, Seb, is we experienced the full course yellow a few minutes just shy of the halfway mark of the race. So, based on that, if we experience one at around the similar time, and based on the algorithm that is used to calculate them, I think we might just about see one within the last 5 or 10 minutes of the race. Which then, based on how long it takes, I'm not sure whether we'll be able to We might end up under full course yellow. Having said that, one of the Porsches just running a little bit wide there and going slow to get back going again. But, can we just say right now, I know that they haven't stopped, so while they're there, but VSCA, who've, let's be honest, spent a lot of time mowing the grass, are currently leading.
And in the pits as well. I mean, this was the car that was stationary
Yes.
for 5.5 minutes. Yeah, I was just about to pick up on that same point, Tim. I mean, you know, what a roller coaster of a race from Race for Cat. I mean, they say that cats have 9 lives, and it's certainly showing that they are at the moment. I mean, they've just come back from the dead almost. It's a remarkable drive, but you're right, you know, they do have to come into the pits again. But I mean, at the moment, it's looking like they can, you know, go to the end with only one more stop. While if we don't get another full course yellow, I think some of the drivers that stopped earlier on in the LMP2 field might just have to come in for a splash and dash, or really have to save fuel. So, I mean, they are looking at some good points at the moment. So they've really managed to bring back the race, and that inspired decision to take the damage under the full course yellow has certainly helped them out a lot. For all they need.
It worked out absolutely perfectly for them, didn't it? It just shows, I mean, yes, I know that obviously Talk Freak, TMS, who are currently in 4th and 5th, have pitted, and Race for Cat are yet to pit, but they are there on merit. They are 25 seconds ahead of Talk Freak, who are the top team that have pitted. So, just having a little bit of a look, Seb. Now, the average pit stop time, assuming that they're not going to take tyres, and basing on what CMS and Talk Freak have done, we're stationary for about 45 to 49 seconds as things stand at the moment. Race for Cat will come out somewhere around Element Sim Racing.
Oh, sorry to cut in there, Tim. CMS Racing just cut across the track, also close to hitting LMP2, and they've towed back to the pits, and that's a very unusual crash there. Mark Johnson at the wheel, and that's the CMSRacing.com Endurance BMW. And let's take a look at the replay and what has happened to the number 78 car. All looks fairly normal going through turn 4 into turn 5 as well. Looks fairly normal. Is he going to get a little bit of a tap? No, he's just...
I'm not sure. I think he... Did he get a bit of a... But then he... I mean, it's a weird place to stop the car completely dead. I'm wondering if he's had some sort of a hardware failure.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the weirdest incidents we've seen today. Another victim of the turn 4, 5, 6 complex, but... yeah, I'm struggling to sort of think about what could have happened in that one. Thankfully, nobody else involved or caught up in that. So I guess, you know, only race that's been harmed is unfortunately CMS's own there. Let's just have a look, and you have to mention the number 67 car. I mean, Kinetic Racing, they've so far led from pole, but it's certainly not been easy for them, has it, Tim?
No, it really hasn't. Another team that's had a up and down, all over the place type of race. And, well, the Top Freaks aren't too far. Ooh, looks like the Z Challenger LMP2's had another excursion into the gravel as they get going again. That's at turn 2, isn't it? Yes, the keyhole. And they're going to have Sim Racing Grid come past them with relatively ease there, carrying much more speed out of turn 2 for them. Nice and calm and collected. Yeah, it's just heading inside the last 35 minutes here, Seb, just looking at battles that are, you know, victories potentially. Kinetic, they are only 3 tenths ahead of Talk Freak in GTD. That was going to go down to a wire. They are 9.8 seconds clear of third place Maguires, who, for them, I mean, they're 1.75 seconds clear of Shamrock, who are currently in 4th in class. I mean, they've had an absolute standing one, just quietly been chipping away, picking up places as the race has gone on. I think Daniel Santos, the Iberian currently driving for them, is going to be really happy with that one. As for LMP2, and obviously the victory overall, well, I think Talk Freak are looking good for that one. They've got a healthy gap over CMS of about 2.8 seconds right now. So I think money has got to go towards them. And then as for third place, well, this is where I need to get my calculator out a little bit here, Seb. I think it could, well, potentially go to Element Sim Racing Fire, who are of course on that alternative strategy compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think you're pretty bang on the money there, Tim. I think so too. Element Sim Racing Fire, a little bit of a lonely race at the moment, but I think it will come good as we head closer to the final stages of the race. Seeing a little bit of action going on everywhere on the track. It's just standard multi-class racing. I mean, we've been spoilt for action so far today, and it's kind of nice just to be able to sit back down. You see there the number 7 car just getting a little bit impeded there by the Porsche. The Porsche wanting the outside line, and Neil's not overly happy. A little bit of a flash of the lights there just to show his displeasure at the Porsche's late move, but you know, it's all fine. Everybody managed to get away from that. As I think we're having a little bit of an issue, Tim, so I'm going to let you carry on for the commentary for a bit.
No, that's no problem. Let's see Lone Wolf being down by Hometown in LMP2. Both these cars yet to take their final stop as we head inside, well, nearly inside the last half an hour. Can you believe it? 2 hours and 8 minutes of racing completed. These two separated by just 7/10 of a second. iRacing ahead of them. They've got to work out to try and close up the gap. They're around about 10 seconds in front, and just clearing the 396 Porsche there, Fark Autotech. Hometown try to pick their way through. It's the Fark Autotech Porsche. No, they are in. So Hubert comes in for Hometown Hero Racing. Let's take a little bit of a look. Albrecht, they are in as well. That just leaves not many cars left yet to pit. So Race for Cat, Black Dove, Agee Motorsport in LMP2, Lone Wolf as well. All yet to take their final pit stop, and Z Challenger, another one of them as well. Still all yet to pit. Well, I mentioned Race for Cat. They are in from the lead here. Now, where are they going to come out? It's going to be roughly about a 45-second stop for them. So I'm going to guesstimate they're going to come out roughly around about 6th or 7th place, which, considering all the off-tracks, excursions out to the gravel, the grass that they've had, incidents, I mean, a really, really solid result for their Black Dove and Agee. We'll keep going again. As they head around through the track now, as there's Element. Strong near the start, but have sort of faded away a little bit as the race has gone on.
I think, just to cut in there, Tim, I think also what's happened is that they've just been super unlucky, and decisions haven't, you know, like they pitted and then we had the full course yellow, and I think they haven't really benefited from that. And I think they'll be sort of coming away from the race sort of thinking what could have been really, and I think you'd agree with them. Race for Cat, I think you mentioned, they're in the pits as well. And they've dropped all the way down to 17th. I mean, they were leading a few minutes ago. So that's it just goes to show how close the LMP2 field still is. I'm sorry, they're out on track. So I think sorry, I do apologise. There's 2 Race for Cats, and I've only just noticed that after 2 hours and 13 minutes. Goes to show how crazy this race has been, Tim.
It is indeed, and so they have come out in 6th place, which is where we're roughly estimating them to. However, in front of them, we've had a bit of an issue. Lone Wolf being one of them. They are going around a night blind. Wow, they clearly feel, and too busy concentrating on flashing the lights at the car in front of them that they were not happy with, and ended up having a collision with the BMW. And that's surely going to be looked at by the stewards. They will be necessarily over-impressed by that one, and don't think, looking back either, Darian Roy will be overly impressed by himself either.
No, that was a fairly poor showing of driving. He comes into the pits, I think, to repair some damage. And let's have a look at the replay and see what started off that chain of events. So 2-1-1 car very deep into the corner, but still made it, and that's Low Motorsports there, sort of almost placing the nose where it maybe wasn't wanted. Pedro Gomez there, the driver of the Lone Wolf Motorsports car. So we see him pull away, and then this is where it gets a little bit more contentious. Is the Ryan Racing there, a little bit blind to the BMW there behind him. And yeah, I think if you're the BMW, I think you're well within your rights to be a little bit annoyed at that sort of, I'm sort of lost for words there, Tim. It's not what you really want to see.
No, it wasn't necessarily their finest moment. That's Black Dove into the pits there, Seb, from the lead. That means that Sorg Freaks have taken the lead. CMS into second, and Race for Cat, as it's all starting to pan itself out. This is going to be really close. They could be looking at a place on the podium. Well, there you go. They've made the switch. They are onto the podium now, Seb. The team that look down and out. Wow, they just need to hold out now for 27 minutes.
Yeah, they do indeed. I mean, a great recovery drive from them. I have to just say congratulations to them, and it really goes to show what a change of mindset can do, and how difficult it can be. You know, I speak from experience that, you know, when a race isn't going your way, it's really hard to sort of turn that around, but they have. Local Motorsports there once again deciding that the grass is as good as the tarmac on the entrance to turn 4, swaps it round for the outside of turn 5, and we have a drive-through penalty for the 104 car. And also, Tim, in what we haven't mentioned yet is the incident limit here is very, very low, and that's Element Sim Racing fire off the track at turn 4. And that's exactly what you don't want to be doing if you're thinking of incident points, Tim. We have a 15x incident limit before you get a drive-through. So some of the drive-throughs that we're seeing might not be for, for contact. It might just be because they've run out of incident points.
That is actually, a really, really good point, to be fair there, Seb. And definitely, we've seen plenty of off-tracks. Quite a bit of argy-bargy at times as well, and there's definitely going to be a few drivers out there that are dicing with death in terms of those. And of course, you can pick up a penalty every 15 eggs, so that's 15 incident points. You pick up 4 alone, just for a contact with another car, regardless if this is a full-on smash or a tiny bumpers. This is the sister Race for Cat car in a battle with Fisher Motorsport.
Indeed, heading down to turn 2, and we see the Fisher Motorsport car, the number 14 car, and currently in 16th place, trying to get past the sister Race for Cat team down towards turn 4, a little bit too far back, and all of this is complicated by the 396 Porsche. They both are going to have to focus on getting past the lap traffic rather than focusing on getting past one another. And there is the Ferrari that's just been into the pits to serve its drive-through penalty. Ferrari gets nice and neatly out of the way of the two battling LMP2 cars as we head through this downhill roller coaster section into turn 9, up over the crest. Once again onto power, you just see how much these rear tyres are crying out, and they're struggling so much for grip. As we see Race for Cat there deciding not to really dive down the inside of that Porsche. That's allowed the number 14 car to catch up a little bit through this penultimate corner there as we go back towards the Lone for Racing car. And again, we have another Race for Cat Motorsport car. This time the car, Race for Cat, is ahead, and they are trying to defend from Pedro Gomez, the 747 car of the Lone Wolf Motorsports team. As we head through, once again, the same section that the sister car was racing just one lap previously, and they both get equal exits out of turn 9 up towards turn 10, and the braking zone of turn 11. Race for Cat now starting to think about this podium, and if they want it, they're going to have to deploy some defensive tactics, as there is a car facing the wrong way. That's the number 37 car, and the number 35 car's made contact out on track, and I think that is, where is that? Is that on the exit of turn 2, Tim? That's,
yes, it is.
very unusual place to see a car. Another car was caught up in that incident that I didn't quite catch it, as we have another car off the track. The number 20 car, LTS Motorsports, have run, I think, deep into turn 4. And it's all happening out there at the moment, Tim. And actually, that's the 104 car almost making contact with the number 51 LMP2, all getting too close for comfort as we see down the inside goes the the Race for Cats LMP2 as the Lone Wolf Motorsports car even gets around the outside. So they are up into 3rd place and demote the number 10 car into 4th.
Wow, that rejoin could have caught that the Ferrari a little bit there, but no for Wolf. Wow, what do we say about them? We haven't seen too much of them, only occasionally during all that, but that is our leader in GTD in Kinetic. They are into the pits, clearly feeling like they need to take on some additional fuel to get them home. As Shamrock, they are in 2. That's what after that, well, they had a bit of a half spin and Santos there. So it's how much they've managed to eke theirs out. So we saw the drivers roughly last about 1 hour 6, 1 hour 7 to the first time. Obviously, we did have that extra, full course yellow, which had to prolong the fuel. So hence why we've gone as far as 2 hours and 18 on tax. But to tell you that you can really show that the pit window is well and truly open for GTD. And 27 Motorsports now leading the way, but they are yet to pit. Top Freaks in the Porsche are your highest runner that has pitted for the 2nd time, followed by Kinetic and then Fisher Motorsports. I think we've got a Lone Wolf picked up a stop and hold here. Is that right, Seb?
It is right. Our 3rd place driver who just got past Race 4 Cats have got a 1-lap stop and hold penalty. Not quite sure what's that for, but that's disastrous for their race. And actually, the number 10 car might even think about trying to get past the 747 car even before they've had to come into the pits and serve that penalty. Try and win it on the track rather than in the pit lane. They're going to send it 3 wide, and they get very neatly past the Ferrari. In fact, is the number 10 car going to pull to the inside of turn 2? Thinks better of it, but he is feeling more and more confident. And you have to think, in that car, the 747 car, you must be feeling just a little bit distracted, thinking about that penalty, thinking about whatever was the reason that you caused it. I know that I certainly would, and you know that you're just not fully focusing on the driving itself, and that can hamper your ability to head into turn 4. Mark at the wheel for the Race 4 Cat Motorsport number 10 car. Through we go into this tight and twisty section. It's going to be very unusual if we see any form of real sort of overtake here. I think we're going to see anything, but we are expecting that 747 car just to pull into the pits, either at the end of this lap or the end of the next lap, and that is hugely disappointing for them. They're deciding not to take it this lap, so they want to at least be out there for another racing lap. And that's the 273 car, isn't it? It's the 211 car, sorry. Yeah, Tim, I mean, let's quickly talk about Night Blind Racing. Sorry, it's the 23 car up ahead. I misread that there. But yeah, the 211 car, the Night Blind Racing. Oh, there's the Maguire's car off the track, and that's at turn 7, I think. That's not what they would have wanted, and they were doing quite well, Tim, weren't they? They went quite high up, and they're going to lose some positions. Sorry, that's not at turn 7, that's at the penultimate corner, but that's been disastrous for them. Oh! Did they just jump up in the air for you, Tim, or was that a little bit of a glitch on my side?
No, they remained firmly rooted to the ground on my end, so I think that's just yours. But that was a bit of a hair racing moment all round anyway, to be fair, for them. And they're actually losing a fair few places already. That is Shamrock ahead of them. A car that's had a bit of an adventurous trip out today. And I mean, credit to them. They've had an absolute blind it up into 22nd. Going up 16 places from where they started. All the way down to 14. Managed to escape 38th.
Wow, absolutely incredible drive. Oh, as Shamrock goes off the track into turn 4.
Curse
curse
the commentator.
of the commentator reigns large here at Mid-Ohio tonight. And yeah, they have lost that position that they just gained from the number 13 car after their accident on the last lap. And yeah, for me, the Porsche went hugely up in the air like it hit a curb. So hopefully that was just a little bit of a glitch on my end, because that would have caused some really serious damage to the number 13 Porsche. That would have been heartbreak with about 20 minutes left to go in this 2-hour 40-minute race here at Mid-Ohio. You see, so the number 13 car is actually in the pits, Tim, and I have to wonder if this is on schedule or if this is some form of damage.
They are due, Seb, so it is about to scheduled for them. As 211 has picked up a penalty that is night blind racing. Not the best of afternoons for them at all right now, but you're saying that damage to the Maguire's Porsche, if it's floor damage, that's going to which would occur from if they have smacked the curb and it wasn't just a connection issue. That's going to really hurt their top speed, especially with damage to the floor. Not as much as what you'd experience in the LMP2s, but it will affect them, and with so many positions up for grab by incredibly slim margins, they're going to need absolutely everything they can get, and they've come out 11th in class. They're just heading out of the pits right now.
Yeah, they are. So I don't think they took any damage. A 37-second pit stop for them, so they are back out. Whether they have got damage or not, they are clearly going to take whatever they have to the end of the race. And you're right, it would really affect your top speed, but in these GT3 cars, they are very sensitive in terms of their engine temperatures. If you damage the intake, you can end up blowing an engine. So it's certainly a risk if they have got damage, but I think they might have just gotten away with it. And a few laps ago, we mentioned Pedro Gomez, the number 747 car, the Lone Wolf Motorsports entry. They had a one-lap stop and hold. Now, I think they're currently debating this with the stewards, so that has been cleared. So at the moment, they do not currently, as it stands, have any sort of penalty to serve, and whether the stewards are going to overturn the decision or they're going to reapply that, we'll have to wait and see. But as it stands at the moment, 747 car is still in third place and doesn't have a penalty against it at the moment. We'll of course try and keep you up to date as we head through the race. But yeah, if they have managed to reverse that, that will be a really good thinking from the team, rather than just sort of quickly taking it. They've thought about it and sort of brought it to the stewards, of course pending any outcome. But of course this could all be almost in vain if the Race 4 Cap Motorsport number 10 car can get past on the track. And you have to say at the moment, looks like the Lone Wolf Motorsport car has a little bit more pace, but traffic is still proving to be a little bit of an issue out there, being held up by the number 16 Porsche as we head through turn 9 now towards the braking zone of turn 11. This looks like Racecat's best opportunity for an overtake for quite some time. Can't get it done into turn 11 though. Are they going to be able to hold this gap though and try and get him on the exit of the final corner? Unfortunately, if you're a Race 4 Cat fan, couldn't do that there. But another big opportunity is now presenting itself for Race 4 Cat, as Lone Wolf has been super slowed down on the entry to turn 1 by the number 84 Porsche. They're both going to have to get past the BMW down into turn 2, and that's just allowed Lone Wolf Motorsports just to stay ahead. Once again, traffic hindering but helping them all at the same time as we head now down towards turn 4. Race 4 Cat firmly now in the slipstream. Do they feel like a late lunge towards the inside with about 12 minutes left of racing to go? They think better of it, pulls far out of that and decides to live another day. But once again, we have more traffic influencing this battle. We have another Porsche, the 66 Porsche, now getting involved in this battle. A brave move there by Lone Wolf Racing. Race 4 Cat follows them quickly through. But Lone Wolf Racing so decisive at the moment, Tim, through the traffic, and that's really helping them keep their position.
Right now they just need to just maintain that position, utilising the back markers to box in their opponent is such a key tactic used in multi-class racing, where you're using the cars around you. This also goes for the GTDs as well as the LMP2s, where you're utilising the other cars, positioning them in such a way that you can gain advantage of the car that you're currently battling against. Quite often, one of the largest tactics that they'll try to play out is going through a slower corner, is getting a car of the opposite class in between yourself and the car that you're battling with behind you. You see that being played out a little bit here right now, as you're going to see Lone Wolf do that, exactly that, utilising the Ferrari to position them between themselves and race for cats, and then just try and get away a little bit, but then they're instantly held up due to the nature of this track by the Porsches. They blitz by them, and riding on board right now with the Race for Cat Motorsport LMP2. Let's see how Frexia deals with this. As there we go. I thought they'd gone off the track there, but Lone Wolf into the pits here, Seb. It's going to be a splash and dash to get him home.
This is actually a penalty, so...
Well, it is apologies, isn't it? Yes.
After the discussions with the stewards clearly have been unsuccessful if you're part of the Lone Wolf Motorsports camp, and they are in for their one-lap stop and hold, so that's disastrous for the 747 car, and they have come in from third place and are surely going to lose quite a lot of positions. As we see the Element Sim Racing Fire team with more traffic up ahead, and this is the point in the race when you just don't get a clean lap. A clean lap becomes a really rare thing. You know, you're always getting traffic, and it always feels like you're catching traffic at the same spot, and you're just being sort of impeded, and you can really get frustrated, but you really just have to sort of throw that out of your head, as we see another penalty, this time for the 112 car. Rusty Spatulas now have a drive-through penalty, so they will be coming into the pits very shortly as we get past the Fogel car there, and that strategy has not worked out for Patrick Fogel from the DRG Racing Silver team, as we see 27 Motorsport Yellow come in, and I do believe this is going to be for a splash and dash. They've already lost first.
Well, they've overshot the box, Seb. I don't know if you caught that, but they had to reverse backwards. Not the first team to do that today, but their pit box is more further down the pit lane, so clearly when they're pushing so hard, just overshot it a little bit to Santos, and they're off and running again, but that will have cost them around about a second, maybe even two.
It certainly would have done. And Tim, I don't know if your timing software is saying the same thing, but to me it's saying that 27 Motorsport have only pitted twice, and I mean that's kind of amazing that they've managed to do 2 hours and 40 minutes, albeit with, you know, a little bit of a stoppage time in the middle on 2 pit stops. I mean, that's fairly impressive. I mean, Flex Motorsport, the 321 car, has just come in for their 3rd pit stop. So, I mean, if they can do it, I mean, that's a fairly impressive strategy from their side.
Oh, one more impressive than that one is Far Corcotech, because they have, in fact, still only pitted once, and they're still just about on the lead lap. Now, their last pit stop was extended. They were stationary for 1 minute 10 seconds, which has maybe aided it a little bit, but you also have to wonder how many of the drivers just turned off the ignition when they were sat stationary during the full course yellows, because that will have helped to save them a little bit of fuel. Nothing too dramatic, but also then on those out laps, those that conserved a bit of fuel too. Definitely some fuel saving and fuel management going out there. I mean, if they can do this on one stop, I think it's incredibly unlikely, but it is plausible. 9 minutes remaining. It's a really, really tough order, as Fisher Motorsports coming in for them from 4th in class, Seb.
They are indeed. So we are seeing the final splash and dashes from the GT3 class, and we see the number 84 car, as you said, Tim, in the pits. In fact, Autotech there coming through turn 9. And we are all going to finally see how all of this is going to shake out, and who has ended up where after 2 hours and 32 minutes, of racing. As we see, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing now. Some drivers are coming into the pits, some aren't, and it's so easy to follow a car into the pits where you don't necessarily want to go. And
Seb,
are in the pits.
I think they might have got onto the grass as they came in. And they've got a driver swap going on. colour getting back into the car in an Italian outfit in that Porsche.
That's a very strange decision. That must be driver time related. They must have worked out that, you know, that he hasn't done 40 minutes, because they are going to lose time by doing that. You're not going to be able to counteract that driver swap time. It takes 30 seconds to swap drivers, and so you need to sort of take enough fuel to sort of offset that. It's a very interesting strategy there. Maybe a little bit worried about driver time. Back Auto Tech Sim Racing are back out on track, down in 17th place now though. And you're right there, they could not manage to stop only once in this race. As we get into the final 8 minutes of this race, been an absolutely incredible race, and hope everybody at home has enjoyed it as much as we have. And this is your GT3 race leader, Jonathan Dance, piloting the Talk Freak Racing Maggot car. And not the best name for how well they've driven today. They've certainly deserve a nicer name than Maggots. They've been absolutely on point and rapid, and have been there or thereabouts at every point of this race, and have, when it's counted, really just turned up the wick and done exactly what they needed to. Of course, we've got Kinetic Racing in second place in class, 5 seconds behind. You just see them there.
Oh, Sebs, there was a LMP2 go skating past. There it is, Night Blind. I saw them just, oh, hold on, they're all heading off. It's the Ferrari off too. That's the DSRT.
DSRT actually hit the wall. The 104 car, it's gone bad to worse for them in the final few laps of this race. Been involved.
Oh, they're all coming off. SNR Esports. They are, what, 22nd in GTD now. Well, that's 23rd actually. We don't get all spillages in sim racing, but anyone would think it's all come around about the same place, and there's oil drops on the track.
Certainly, it looks that way, Tim. Yeah, it's extra drama for the final 7 minutes of this race. Number 43 car flashing his lights there, trying to get some of the traffic just to move out of the way. As we see a little bit of a misunderstanding going on, I think, between the 14 car and another GT3 at the turn 2 hairpin. And that was actually your race leader, Talk Freak Racing. And they are currently going to do the double here, Tim. I hadn't quite noticed that yet, but Talk Freak going to take the LMP2 victory and, crucially, the GT3 victory as well. And is that true that Talk Freak Racing are up 13 places from where they started? What an incredible, incredible drive from them.
They have. They've had an absolute blinder here. This Element Simfire there, popping in for a quick splash and dash. Currently 7th in class, but you see your leader there. I mean, wow, they've pulled off some, good strategy. They've been solid when they needed to be as well. And right now, they, with 8 seconds advantage over Fisher of CMS Racing, who, let's not forget, have been incredibly strong for so much of the race. So just need to cruise home to bring that one home. But also, Frixeria of Race for Cat Motorsport in 3rd. What a result for them. They've had plenty of excursions, plenty of drama-filled race. A bit like the FBP Ferrari they've just gone past as well, which is, I mean, that another car that looked down and out as well, Seb. That picked this now, currently running 5th in class. I mean, yeah, they were well down.
They really were. Great recovery drive from that Ferrari outfit. Just goes to show once again that endurance racing, it's never over. FBP Racing doing a great recovery drive, and they are ahead of, is that the 94 Lamborghini? I mean, that 94 Lamborghini at some point, I'm pretty sure, was a lap down and was involved in a few incidents, and they're 4th.
Yep. You're absolutely spot on there, Seb. Another team that's just quietly chipped away. They're up 24 places. They started 28th in class. Let's not forget.
I mean, absolutely an incredible drive from them. You're right. I mean, I think they are some of the biggest gainers on the grid. I mean, if you just look down, I mean, it's certainly a tale of two tales out there. The drivers that have been, really lucky and excelled and managed to move forward, and the drivers that haven't been lucky and have lost, 12, 13 places. And very few drivers have actually are currently in the position where they started. The only two I can see are P7 in GT3, the number 97 DRG Racing silver car, and World of Sim Racing, the number 51 car, who are in 8th place. And that's another car, Tim, actually, the number 51 car. They had a dire start to the race. I mean, it seemed like every incident they were, some way involved, whether, it was maybe their fault or they were just innocent bystanders. But they are, again, quite lapping away up in 8th and are going to take away great points from this race that I don't necessarily think they were going to be expecting, 2 hours ago.
No. There's been some real shock. I say shock, there's just been, quietly, as I said before, rightly so, just chipping away. I'll tell you what, this is a cracking battle here. Fisher in the Porsche, Maguire's in the Porsche, and the Ferrari as well, caught up into this mix. The Hack Racing, looks time to coming through quietly and looking to, they are hacking and are slashing their way through past these two, because this could be 2 places in the matter of 2 corners that they will have picked up. And right around the outside, the 111 gets the move done to make take a bow.
Certainly so, and Maguire's there after conceding both places into the braking zone of turn 4. It's got past the 84 car, and they can go and set about the 111 car and see if they can overtake that Ferrari. We are getting close to the race finish now, so it's certainly do or die for any drivers out there that are involved in scraps like these, as we see a change for 4th place in the LMP2 field. Ward getting past the 438 car, so change of position. That's the Trading Pates Racing team getting past Black Dove Racing. Black Dove, though, trying to come back at them as we head into turn 4, and we are 2 by 2 by 2. Oh, and there's a spin! A late spin there for Black Dove Racing. They've taken out one of the GT3 cars as well. And what has gone on there? And that's the number
Fisher.
85 car, Fisher Motorsport Eagle, involved in that. And that's an unforced error there from the Black Dove Racing car, braking a little bit too late by the looks of it, and taking out an innocent bystander. And that, you know who that's promoted up into 5th place? That's promoted Agui Racing. Now, they started in 16th place. We've been talking about drivers that have been making their way through the grid, but Agui, another one of those drivers just to sort of just lap away. And if I look at my very not complete version of lists of penalties, I don't think they've sought the wrath of the stewards at any point. So I think they've played an absolute blinder and actually now are on the back of this little gaggle of cars. Unfortunately for them, they've got a lapped car in between. I think that's number 23. So if that number 23 can either sort of get out of the way or they can dispatch that car, they could be looking at a 4th place here, as we actually have some of their drivers in the YouTube chat. Always very nice to see all the drivers joining as we get into the dying stages of this race. In fact, I think we're very close to getting the white flag. If not, the white flag has already been flown. So we are certainly on our last lap. There is Talk Freak Racing Ascari, currently 9.2 seconds ahead of their 2nd place counterpart, the number 79 car, CMS Racing, who I think will be disappointed. They've lost out 1 position. Talk Freak Racing Ascari up as 13 places from where they started. It just goes to show you don't need the ultimate 1-lap pace, you just need that consistency. And and as much as I hate to say it, you just need a little bit of luck sometimes in motorsport. It's a cruel game, motorsport. It can certainly go both ways, but you have to say it's certainly gone Talk Freak's way even today. The number 43 and the number 6 car both doing their bit as we head now towards the final part of the lap. And I don't think he's really going to risk any manoeuvres around the outside of the number 84 car. He's just going to stay behind him, and you know what? He doesn't need to do anything. He's going to come across the line to win the race here at Mid-Ohio. Round number 4 goes to Talk Freak Racing, congratulations to the number 43 car. And Talk Freak Racing, Maggots is going to cross the line to take the victory here at the GT3 here at Mid-Ohio. Congratulations to Talk Freak for doing the double. And that's Agui Motorsports off the track. So while we've been watching both of our race leaders cross the line, they've had some form of kerfuffle. That's allowed Black Dove back through. But are Black Dove going to encounter any sort of penalties, any post-race penalties after the incident involved with them earlier after braking late into turn 4? But Black Dove at the moment are going to come across the line and finish in 3rd and 5th place overall. Number 4 3.8 car is going to come across the line, and the Gear Motorsports will be heartbroken at that. They had 4th place on the line but are going to have to settle for 6th place. As across the line we go. Faster Esports come home in 4th. And in the GT3 field, the Kinetic Racing comes across the line in 7th. 27 Motorsport cross the line in 3rd place. Sorry, it was a Kinetic Motorsport in 2nd place. Fastest Motorsports come across the line in 3rd place overall in class. DRG Racing Silver, after having that interesting strategy, battling for the lead and being involved in that incident at turn 4, coming home in 6th place. And I think, Tim, that is pretty much everybody crossing the line. And there you go. There is Talk Freak Racing side by side, the 2 race winners, and take a bow, because what a domination from those 2 teams today.
They've had their own bits of drama as well. The GCD team have looked stronger than the LMP2 team overall, but they come across the line for the photo finish. They fully deserve it. You've got to be there when opportunities present them to you, whether it's a short 5-minute or 10-minute race, or if it's an endurance race like we've had 2 hours and 40 minutes here at Mid-Ohio. You get a feeling, yeah, here come the donuts. Not as easy to do it in the LMP2. You've got to really switch the crash control off, but sure, he's about to be Sean is Joshua Wolf right now. How it's done by Joshua Dance. There you go, lighting up the rears in the Porsche 911 in spectacular style.
Spectacular indeed, and well-deserved donuts, and certainly of a better standard than the LMP2s, but yeah, we'll blame it on the car rather than the driver. Congratulations to everybody who finished that. That was one tough multi-class race. It had everything. We had, we had a full course yellow, we had drama, we had really good racing, and here are your final race results. So Talk Freak Racing Ascari take the LMP2 victory, with CMSRacing.com settling for 2nd place after starting the race on pole. Race for Cat Motorsport have a great recovery drive to come back in 3rd place after their various incidents throughout the race. Trading Pates Racing team come across the line in 4th place. Black Dove Racing finish in 5th after getting past Iggy Motorsports on the final lap of the race. World of Sim Racing team come across the line in 7th. The number 51 car had its share of incidents earlier on in the race, but great recovery driver from them. And they are the first driver to be lapped by Talk Freak, so they are in 7th place, with Albrecht Motorsports in 8th place. Element Sim Racing Fire, they started 2nd, so they have dropped down quite a few places. Sorry, they started 3rd even, but yeah, they dropped a few places down, so they are in 9th place, with Rusty Spatulas in 10th. Sim Racing Grid Moise is 11th, with Hometown Hero Racing in 12th, with Lone Wolf Motorsports 7-4-7. Of course, they were actually in the podium places until that late penalty saw them drop down to 13th. With Zed Challenger Racing a GoPro coming across the line in 14th, with Racecat, the number 11 car, in 15th. Fisher Motorsports 16th. Night Blind Racing in 17th place, 4 laps down, and a race I think to forget for the 211 car. And the number 2 car, and who rounds out your LMP2 grid in 18th place, of course involved in that incident earlier on. And then for your GT3 or GTD results, Talk Freak Racing Maggots take the win. 3.5 seconds separated them and Polster to Kinetic Racing. 27 Motorsport round out your podium with a great recovery drive from them after not showing their true pace in qualifying, with Faster Esports again coming through the field to finish in 4th. FBP Racing, the 151 car, after leading the race, having a few penalties and a few different issues, come home for a remarkable 5th place, with DRG Racing Silver, another one of the drivers battling earlier on for the race victory in 6th. Hack Racing quietly once again coming through the field in 7th place, with Fisher Motorsport Porsche in 8th place. Maguire's team Freedom Motorsport is 9th, with Real Pixel Motorsport in 10th. Flex Motorsport come home just outside of the top 10 in 11th, with TR powered by Geeks Energy in 12th. Disco Motorsport is 13th, with Firestorm Motorsport in 14th. DSRT is 15th, with the Westwood Racing Esports Car in 16th place. Hyper Racing Team is 17th. Fisher Motorsport Eagle comes home in 18th place. FAC Autotech Sim Racing settles for 19th place after almost doing the race on only one pit stop, with LTS Motorsport in 20th place. CMSRacing.com Endurance couldn't emulate the success of their sister team, unfortunately coming home in 21st place, 2 laps off the lead, with Piston Broke Racing as well, 2 laps down. Drivetrain and Motorsport is 3 laps down, along with RS Esports and Resolve Racing. They are 23rd, 4th and 25th respectively. NR Esports as well, also having late race drama, down in 26th place. Shamrock Sim Racing, again, another one of the drivers to sort of go off very, very close to the end. They are in 27th, with Apex Racing Group 10 laps off the lead in 28th. DSRT Sim X Pro is 29th and 26 laps off the field, so these are now our retirement, with Money House Graphics Racing 67 laps off the lead, and RER No Walls here and Z Challenger Racing unable to take the start. And that rounds out your 40-something car, 50-car grid even. And what a race it's been, Tim.
Well, it's been an absolute classic, an absolute barnstormer. But I think maybe it's time to have a bit of a chat with some of our drivers here, Seb. And first off, I think it's only really rightly so that we have a bit of a chat with our winner here today for Top Freak Racing Ascari. We're now joined by Joshua Wolf. Joshua, what an absolute race for yourself. Just seemed to build momentum as the race went on to then find yourself in first place.
Yeah, had great calls, but I think the biggest thing was just keeping the nose clean and getting through the traffic good, and we seemed throughout the entire race to be one of the better teams to get through traffic, so that was a big thing with this track.
During the broadcast in the race, we followed, we saw the onboard footage of the drivers, specifically the LMP2s as they were coming through the traffic. Just how challenging was it out there, especially after the first time you came through the traffic, and again the first time you came through the traffic after the full course yellow?
Yeah, definitely. When they're all bunched up, it is all very difficult to get through there cleanly. There's 30 some GT3 cars, and that is a whole lot, especially around here, to get through, plus continue your racing. But like I said, we just had to keep our nose clean, and Trevor and I did that. So, yeah,
completely understandable. Before we let you go, Joshua, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Give a shout out to Trevor with a great opening stint, gaining us quite a few positions. I tried to throw it away there on the restart, but he did a great job there, and then a great call on the box to get me in when he did for that final stop. Had a little bit of luck go our way with the leader on their entry, so great shout out to him. Also thank our sponsors, TFR Labs, TeamSpeak, Carrot, for being with us and supporting us.
I'm absolutely happy. That's Joshua Wolf here. The Top Freak Racing Ascari with the victory in LMP2 and the victory overall. Well, Seb, I believe you're standing by with our winners from Top Freak in the GT3 class.
I do believe I am, as we just get that all lined up. We do indeed. Welcome, Neil. What a great race for both of your team cars. And you take home the GT3 victory.
Yeah, it couldn't have gone much better, really, could it? 2 wins. That's the second one for us in a row, so it's going quite well this season.
Certainly looks like that. Yeah, how was it out there? Because we had some drivers coming into the chat sort of throughout the race saying it was absolutely crazy. Did it feel like that from the cockpit when you were driving?
No, I mean, to be honest, I think we had a fairly relaxing race. I mean, we weren't pushing that much for the whole thing. The first hour, we were sort of hanging on to the first 3. They were having incidents and penalties and stuff between them, and we were just sort of sitting there watching. We did our driver change and we're just lapping to the end. I mean, the only thing we really did that was abnormal was we covered off a yellow about half an hour from the end. But other than that, it's quite tame, really.
Well, I mean, I think you're probably one of the minority out there that sort of calling it a tame race. It certainly didn't look like that from our perspective, but I'm glad that, it worked out for you. And it just goes to show that if you can sort of almost make a race be sort of tame and not very exciting, it really does give you results in the end.
Yeah, I think that's always been our approach. Like we've never been ones to get the fastest lap. We've always want to get a decent lap time so we can just sit there comfortably doing an okay pace, but ultimately it's just staying safe. And I think we did this whole race on 3x or something, which is the same as we did at Laguna Seca. So that seems to be the approach that works, so we'll keep doing it.
Wow. And did you feel that a lot of other cars were getting a lot more incident points than you were?
It's hard to tell because you can't see what incidents people have got and you can't see what drive-throughs people are getting. But from looking at other cars, we can see it's like, okay, they've got one, they've got a couple maybe, but it's not really something you can see when you're driving, which is really hard.
Yeah, certainly. And just looking at it looked like you got 1 out of the team's 3, which is pretty amazing.
JD's terrible at driving. I mean, he got 2 at Laguna Seca and I got 1, so I've got to have a word with him about that.
I mean, he's twice as bad as you are, so he certainly needs some talking to.
Definitely, 100% worse in my eyes.
Well, congratulations, great race from your side. Always really nice to see, when a plan really comes together. Before we let you go and celebrate with your team, is there anybody you'd like to shout out at all?
It will be the same list as Josh a minute ago, but also JD obviously drove the bulk of that race, so him and Don and John, who's hanging out with us doing spotting and general chit chat.
Always nice to hear. It's always nice to shout out your teammates. Well, they certainly did a great job all combined, so congratulations on your win. I hope to see you at the next round.
Thank you very much.
Well, Seb, just while you're having a little chat to Neil there, now joined by the second place team in LMP2. Well, of course, that was CMSRacing.com Pro. Now joined by Thomas Fisher and Cameron Barker. That was definitely an eventful race for yourselves. Obviously, led early on, looked incredibly strong. Would I be right in saying maybe a bit disappointed with the second, as good as second place ultimately is? You're on the podium.
Yeah, definitely. The disappointment is definitely there. Even if we go back and look at the gap that we had before our final pit stop and stuff, would have been enough to get the win, even with the massive tire fall off I had at the end. But yeah, we just got super unlucky. Porsche went deep into 12 and nicked us on the rear end, and that was a straight round. So, as much as that's our first podium of the season, and as long as no one else takes this one away from us again, we're happy with it, but obviously a bit disappointed in the end.
Yeah, we caught on camera. I thought I'd just seen a flying LMP2 just skirt across towards the pit entrance, and we spotted it was yourself. Drama right from the start to the very finish. We were talking to the guys for obviously the race winners from Talk Freak Racing Scary about the traffic management around Mid-Ohio. For yourselves, obviously your team was effectively punching the LMP2 hole through the GT3s for so much of a part of it. Just how challenging was that, or do you think there's almost a bit of an element where, because you're in first place, they almost go a little bit easier on you?
I think during the first period, it wasn't too bad, but it's still, you get past turn 4 and you have to have the GTs working with you. If they're just focusing on your race, you've just got to wait, and it's quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, as Cam said, before turn 4, easy as pie. After turn 4, it gets to the point where if you make a move between turn 4 and well, actually, I'd say probably turn 6, turn 6 and like turn 8, so sort of that little squiggly section. If you make a move there, it's because you're really desperate, and obviously being at the front of the field, it's super important that you keep the gap, but you also have the most amount to lose. So it's just sort of gauging the cars around you. So we lap the GTs quite a lot around such a short track. So we know the ones to look out for, the ones to give a couple extra car widths to, because we just don't trust them. And then the ones that we do trust, obviously we know they'll, as Cam said, that they'll work with us.
Definitely. And in terms of obviously the restart, what was your sort of strategy around there after the full course yellow?
Well, obviously, I was just getting into the car pretty fresh. I hadn't had a chance to get any practice in this morning for the race, and I hopped in the car pretty fresh. We were 4th, I think, but the only car on brand new tires. So the goal from that was essentially, we knew that the tires would keep me there just while I got my bearings back, and then I could start to push a little bit. We got past, I don't know who it was for 3rd. And then from then, it was sort of an elastic band situation. So, we just wanted to hold our own. We knew that eventually we'd have the upper hand on pit stops, the cars ahead. So I just didn't push and, waited for it to come to us, and it did.
Oh, lovely stuff. Before we let you gentlemen go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Well, on my side, I don't know about Cam, but definitely shout out to CMS for giving us the chance to drive the car. Always a pleasure to be working with David Anderson, the owner of CMS. Thank you to John Taylor Tammy as well for helping us with the setup and everything like that. And thank you to our sister cast this weekend. And it was Brett Stevens and Mark Johnson. Thanks very much to them. They were a gem out there. They would never compromise their race to help us, but they certainly didn't compromise us. So big thanks out to them.
Yeah, I've got no one to add to that list. Perfect.
I can see you agree. Oh, there's something there. That is Cameron Barker and Thomas Fisher from cms.racing.com Pro, who finished 2nd in LMP2 and overall. Now, Seb, I understand you're standing by with Jerome Hannick from McGee.
I certainly am. Good evening, Jerome. That was a great race from your side. I mean, you said in the YouTube chat that you were a little bit surprised to be up there. Talk us through your race from your perspective.
Yeah, we had a really nice race. We had a great start. The qualifying, I messed it up. The car was good. We got a little bit lucky with the full course yellow. And Pia did a wonderful job for the 2nd stint. Yeah, pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great result from your side. Of course, up 10 positions from where you started. Coming into the race, did you think that sort of 6 was on the cards, or did you think you could be higher or lower?
No, we had a very different mindset on it. We thought P10 was a great result for us. But together we managed to make it a nice P6.
What do you think sort of made the difference? Do you think you had more pace than you expected, or did you keep it, cleaner than other drivers around you, or do you think it was sort of a combination of all factors sort of coming together at the right time?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors. We were pretty lucky until the last lap, and everything just fell in the right spot.
Yeah, certainly did. And of course, yeah, were you battling for P4, or was it just between you and P5 at the time?
Yeah, P5 at the time we were fighting for. And just unlucky.
Yep, I mean, fair enough. And yeah, great race from your side. How did you find it as being an LMP2 around here? We've heard from other LMP2 drivers in the broadcast, saying how difficult it was. Do you sort of share those sentiments from?
Yeah. Also, the last race I did on Laguna Seca was a horrible race for me, and I was expecting to get another horrible race for myself, but yeah, in the end it worked out pretty good for the team.
Yeah, it certainly did, and we're next back here for the sprint series at MoSport. Do you think it's going to sort of provide the same sort of challenges that Mid Ohio has?
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully we can do the same.
Yeah, I mean, you've shown that you can keep it. Out of incidents, there was a huge amount of penalties out there. And am I right in saying that you didn't pick up anything from the stewards?
No, we didn't get one.
Well, congratulations. That's quite a feat. I've got a notepad full of sort of scribbled down drive through. So yeah, I mean, it helps you so much. So yeah. So I mean, all the luck for obviously Watkins Glen. That's the next race, and we'll see you again in July. Before we let you go, is anybody you'd like to shout out at all?
I would like to do a big shout out to Mark Agui, the owner of the team. All the boys in the team, you know who I mean. Pierre for racing this week with me and setting up the car. And yeah, I think that's everyone.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, have a great Watkins Glen, and we will see you in a few weeks' time at MoSport.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Whereas, thank you for providing some great racing. And I think, Tim, we've got time for one more interview. And why don't you take this one, Tim?
Yes, now joined by Christophe Demey of Hack Racing in the Ferrari and GT3, finished 7th. Well, I think it was a bit of an eventful race for yourself, but some absolutely really cracking overtakes from yourself in I think it was around about 10-15 minutes from the end of the race, where you managed to overtake 2 cars in the space of as many corners.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me. Yeah, we decided we would have a very, very good run towards the end of the race as the temperature dropped down. And I told my teammate, all right, we need to capitalize on that fresh set of tires, the last one we had, because we would have had to pit anyway because of the layout with the 4-course yellow. So yeah, we decided to take the most of the fresh set. Yeah, I did have some very, very intense battles. Some I should have ended earlier than I did, but glad I made up 9 positions after when I came out.
Yeah, you had it was really pushing hard. I mean, you managed to do the race as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on just the 2 stops. I mean, that's absolutely incredible stuff. Where most of the field as well had to do it on 3. Was it?
Oh, really?
Were you according to our software you have? Yeah. So, was there much fuel saving going on your part?
Well, to be honest, I don't. There's no BOP in this, and I don't really know if the Ferrari can carry more fuel than the others. Because we could do 49 laps on a full tank of fuel, and we managed to drag the first stint towards that. Unfortunately, I had a very, very embarrassing moment. We were on the first pit box on the pit lane, and I missed it because I didn't anticipate it.
Yes, we did see that one. Unfortunately, yes, it was.
So I had to do fuel on 1.2 liters of fuel. We did lose a lot of time. That probably cost us a top 5, if not a podium.
Yeah, I'd imagine it did. It would have done indeed. I mean, the other Ferrari that finished in front of you, FBP. I mean, they come from way down, so you do have to wonder. But looking ahead to the next round, you feeling confident?
Oh, I'm so much confident and excited. I like Mid Ohio. It's probably the first big race I do on it. I did one casual race maybe. I like it. It's not my gist, and Watkins is so much more my type of racetrack. Much more room for overtaking, switchbacks, side-to-side racing.
I second every single statement that you've just made there. I absolutely love Watkins Glen, especially for multi-class racing. It just works beautifully together. But before we let you go, Christophe, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, first of all, thanks to Richard Frank, the our team leader at HAC, who recruited me, say 1 month ago. We have a really good relationship. We're working well together so far. We're really excited to have more people join in because there are a lot of people preparing themselves, getting started on iRacing. And also, yeah, a big shout out to the group that got me into sim racing first. I dedicate that result to Crafty Posting, Discord, and community Facebook.
Lovely stuff. That's Christoph DeMay of Hack Racing, who finished 7th in GT3 and 25th overall in the Ferrari. Wow, Seb. I think that's spoken to everyone. Some really intriguing thoughts from drivers.
Yeah, certainly. Really interesting to get that that inside line from the drivers, and yeah, it just goes to show how how hard it was for every driver out there in their own sort of different ways. And I'm really interested, to hear from Talk Freak Racing, the GTD entry, when they were like, oh, it wasn't a crazy race, we just drove around. And then you've got other drivers that seem to have everything go wrong, or that could go wrong, did go wrong. Just having a quick look at the incidents. Night Blind Racing ended up with 34 incidents, so they would have taken 2 drive-throughs for that. Very interesting race all around, and I think it's been really good, Tim. And of course, now we go to Mosport, which is the next round. Of course, the drivers will be racing actually at the 6 hours of the Glen, but that's part of the Endurance Championship. So us at Apex will be back for Mosport. And how do you think that's going to compare to Mid-Ohio?
Mosport is a fast, free-flowing circuit. However, a little bit trickier for multi-class racing. Similar sort of vibe in terms of Mid-Ohio, some nice long straights that are nice and open wide, where you'll see a lot of the passes get done for position. However, it's when it comes to the LMP2s coming past the GTDs, that is where it gets tricky through certain parts of the circuit, because there's only realistically about one line normally available there. So expect to see drivers tripping up over one another, but at a longer track length, Seb, it might not be quite as frequent as what we've seen here, but it still will be very frequent.
I think it certainly will be. Well, we'll be back in the commentary box for the race in Mosport, but until then you can find us on Apex Racing TV, where we have a multitude more of racing series, including, I think, some Formula 3.5s tonight with yourself, Tim, in the commentary box once again.
Yes, myself and Austin Knight will be in the commentary box for that one. It's been an absolutely cracking season, well worth tuning in.
Well, if this has whetted your appetite, then do join in a little bit later. But until then, thank you very much to our production, Simili Kumo there. He's done an absolutely incredible job, as always. So thank you very much to him. Thank you very much, Tim, as well, for commentating. And thank you to everybody who has watched this and enjoyed the coverage. Thank you to all the drivers. And we will see you just over a month and a half time when we head to Mosport.